Good afternoon. Welcome to the Newport-Mesa Unified Board of Education's regularly scheduled board meeting for September 12, 2023. I'm calling our meeting to order at 4:30. Rosie, roll call, please.
Trustee Anderson?
Here.
Trustee Crane?
Here.
Trustee Wiegand?
Here.
Trustee Pearson?
Here.
Trustee Murphy?
Here.
Trustee Ursulou?
Here.
Trustee Barto?
Here.
Dr. Smith?
Here.
Next, we have the adoption of the agenda. Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Okay, moved by Trustee Crane, seconded by Trustee Pearson. Roll call vote.
Trustee Anderson?
Yes.
Trustee Crane?
Yes.
Trustee Wiegand?
Yes.
Trustee Pearson?
Yes.
Trustee Murphy?
Yes.
Trustee Ursulou?
Yes.
Trustee Barto?
Yes.
Do we have any community input?
No.
Nope. We will move to closed session. The items are 4A, conference with labor negotiator, 4B, public employee discipline dismissal release employment, and 4C, public employee discipline dismissal release employment number 202309HR. And we will return to open session at 6 p.m. Welcome to the open session portion of our Newport-Mesa Unified Board of Education regularly scheduled meeting for September 12, 2023. I am calling our meeting to order at 6:01. In closed session, the Board of Education took action to approve the employment agreement number 202309HR. The roll call vote was 7-0. And now we will have our moment of reflection and pledge of allegiance led by our student board member, India Howerton. Please begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next, we will adopt the minutes from the August 22, 2023 board meeting. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second it.
Okay, moved by Trustee Wiegand, seconded by Trustee Murphy. Roll call vote.
Trustee Anderson?
Yes.
Trustee Crane?
Yes.
Trustee Wiegand?
Yes.
Trustee Pearson?
Yes.
Trustee Murphy?
Yes.
Trustee Ursulou?
Yes.
Trustee Barto?
Yes.
Great. And this is our first meeting back for the 2023-24 school year. And so we are very excited to welcome our new student board members. Trustee Crane.
Yes, welcome student board members. We are thrilled to have you part of our team. So typically what happens is that we give a topic to the board members and 3 of them report back on that topic, and then they also highlight 2 campus highlights from their campuses. And so this rotation, we have India Howerton from Costa Mesa High School, we have Peyton Vovan from Coronel Del Mar High School, and Victor Jimenez from Early College High School. And to lead us is India Howerton, and the topic is, from your lens, how would you describe the launch of the new school year at your campus? Also, please share 2 specific campus highlights. India?
Hello and good evening to Superintendent Smith, President Anderson, all trustees, board members, and community. My name is India Howerton, and I'm honored to be representing Costa Mesa High School. I would describe the beginning of this school year as connected. Our principal gave us a message that every staff member and student is a piece of the puzzle that is Costa Mesa High School. We did a few activities to endorse this message, one of which being students making a puzzle making pieces that represent them, and then we put the pieces together to display in our classrooms. One highlight on our campus has been Yellow Ribbon Week, which is also Suicide Prevention Week. Students have been making posters to advocate for students' mental health and putting emphasis on our school's wellness space, which has at least one psychologist there every day of the week and several resources for anyone who needs them. Another highlight has been our student section at football games. Student sections are areas in the bleachers of football games where students are encouraged to cheer, dress up, and connect. It's a countywide initiative to improve school spirit and engagement at sporting events, and we've been getting recognized on OC student sections even though we're a much smaller school, and the crowd is always spirited, and it's a great morale booster for students and something to look forward to.
Thank you, India. Next is Peyton Vauban from Corona Del Mar High School.
Good evening, Dr. Smith, President Anderson, and esteemed board members. My name is Peyton Vauban, and I'm proud to represent Corona Del Mar High School. We have started this year at Corona Del Mar with a bang. Our spirit has been at an all-time high since we have gotten back from COVID, and we are so excited to see what the rest of the year has in store for us. We've had 2 very successful football games so far, our Neon Night and Tidal Wave, with students participating in cheers, dressing up, and seniors standing in front. We have pushed inclusivity by welcoming students on campus on the first day with music and maps, and on the second day with donuts and coffee due to the hurricane warning. We've had a very successful back-to-school night, showing the parents around to meet our wonderful staff, and have a Welcome Wednesday coming up tomorrow morning, which is when a group on campus gives out donuts and coffees first thing in the morning. Our first group to give out these donuts are ASB, and as the year goes on, we will have a multitude of sports, leaderships, and arts groups welcoming the students for the beginning of each month. Even though we've had a bit of a hectic start of the year, the chaos is welcome. We are very ambitious this year in doing a lot and making a change. Coming up, we soon have our rivalry rally and football game versus Newport Harbor, and hoping for the 11th consecutive win for our Battle of the Bay. 2 campus highlights we have had in these past few months is our girls varsity volleyball team taking home the win over Newport Harbor in their Battle of the Bay game in 5 games. Go Sea Queens. Mm-hmm. And also coming up from Wednesday to Friday, we have our annual Club Rush, in which we showcase a variety of unique clubs that we have on campus. This year we have over 70 clubs set up and registered, with clubs ranging from animal conservation, which volunteer at animal shelters and raise money, Girls Who Code, a club that teaches women to code and learn various STEM fields and disciplines, and Thrift Club, which is a club that brings together people with interest in fashion to promote upcycling and sustainability. We are looking forward to what this year will bring us, and I'm excited to continuously report about the events on my campus with you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Peyton. And Early College High School, Victor Jimenez.
Good evening, Superintendent Smith, President Anderson, board, and esteemed guests. The commencement of early college school year can basically be summarized in one word: reunion. Because early college is so small compared to other high schools, the student population is only around 200 students, and this creates a positive environment where students are given opportunities to connect with their peers at a deeper level. The start of the school witnessed countless smiling faces as students caught up with each other after summer break. With the close camaraderie, ECHS can be comparable to a very close family of students. One of the most pivotal aspects of the beginning of each school year is our collective commitment to welcoming and integrating the incoming freshmen into our family. Before the actual school year began, ASB hosted an orientation for our incoming freshmen. After the orientation was over, the freshmen got pizza and they got an opportunity to socialize with their new peers and ASB members. However, this orientation was not the only way to integrate the incoming freshmen into early college, and this leads me to one of our campus's highlights. And here's a little bit of background information about our school, just so you guys are on the same page. Our school is divided into 4 houses, which are a little bit like teams, and throughout the year we compete in various competitions, and the house at the end of the year with the most house points wins. And the freshmen were recently sorted into their houses, and we had our first house competition of the year. And this was a simple game that included houses basically lining up and passing water and plastic fish in order to fill their bucket to a certain point, and whichever house did that first won. And by having competitions like these, new students can work together as a team with all of their other housemates and establish great bonds along with unforgettable and often funny memories. And finally, Early College hosted Senior Sunrise for our class of 2024, our literal campus highlight, because the sun highlights the campus. Yeah. Well, my friends told me not to tell that one, but it's okay. This was a great way to strengthen the bond between seniors as they navigate through their last year of high school. Hosting a senior sunrise near the beginning of the school is symbolic for the bright future ahead of every single senior, without any senioritis involved. And as a school, we look forward to supporting the seniors in our family as they undertake endeavors and as they finalize their time with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Victor. I also would like to acknowledge the 2 student board members that are not reporting here today, but are here in solidarity with the team. We have Brianna Garcia representing Newport Harbor High School. You want to stand, Brianna? There we go. Just came off a field hockey game and just came right over, did a big wardrobe change, and then here she is. So thank you for your dedication. And then we also have from Estancia High School, Jose. No need for last name. Okay, Gomez. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. And next, we have Harbor Council PTA report, Lisa Bowler.
Excuse me. Good evening, Superintendent Smith, President Anderson, trustees, cabinet, student representatives, and our guests. I'm representing Cynthia tonight, who is unable to attend, and she wants to welcome you to a new school year and looks forward to the continued partnership between Newport-Mesa and PTA. Yesterday, we welcomed our PTA presidents to the first Harbor Council PTA meeting of the year. Our goal is to empower our PTA presidents so they can be the best leaders for their school communities. We will be providing resources on running and managing their PTAs, as well as networking opportunities between them and many trainings, and we have individualized mentoring also. We currently have 26 active PTAs. Our PTA membership campaigns are in full swing and off to a good start. Several of our PTAs already have over 100 members, and we currently at Harbor Council have over 2,700. We encourage everyone here and watching to join one of or more of our local PTAs. PTA is part of the fabric of our public education system and a trusted partner to the parents, families, educators, and community members. When you become a member of PTA, you're showing concern for all our children, and you increase our collective strength and the impact we have in representing our schools at the regional, state, and national level. So please click join Totem PTA, and you can go to any of our PTA schools, and all you have to do is click, and you can become a member, and the more the better. Our participating PTAs have launched their Reflections art campaigns. The theme is I am hopeful because, and there are 6 categories: film production, literature, music competition, photography, dance, visual arts, and there is a special division for our special artists. And this is designed to enhance the quality of arts in our Newport-Mesa students. We have Walk to School Day upcoming on October 4th. This event celebrates safe walking to school and encourages families to be active together while building strong family bonds and healthy habits. Currently, we have 15 of our PTAs registered to participate: Adams, Anderson, California, College Park, East Bluff, Killybrook, Lincoln, Mariners, Newport Coast, Newport Heights, Paularino, Ray, Sonora, Victoria, and Whittier. And not all the schools will participate on October 4th. There will be 2 different days because Costa Mesa, we have so many students, we can't do it all. And the police and city workers help to promote that safety. And lastly, we look forward to attending the State of the Schools breakfast on October 10th. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have our CSEA representative, Sean Katz.
I don't think we
You're
have a
not-
report tonight.
You're not speaking today?
No, sorry.
Okie dokie, no problem. And we have our NMFT president, Rhonda Reed.
Good evening, President Anderson, trustees, Superintendent Smith, cabinet, and guests here tonight. As we are in the fourth week of school, which in some ways feels like we just started, and others it feels like months have gone by. But for students, I know that teachers and certificated staff are working hard to connect with students and create environments where great teaching and learning can occur. I know at the end of last school year, I mentioned to be aware of all that's going on with teachers and staff as they're wrapping up a school year. And I would say that, when adding trainings and responsibilities to their plate. I would say that should go for the beginning of the school year as well. We've heard from many staff that they're spending 6 to 7 hours for mandatory online training. The training format indicates the training will take a little over 4 hours, but many staff say it takes much longer. It appears that some staff are not given time during the work week to take care of this required training. I think it's important that teachers and staff know that they are valued by letting them know that you care and respect their work-life balance and spending time with their families, as many of them are spending that time fulfilling this training requirement. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have community input on non-agendized items. Trustee Wigand.
This is an opportunity for the public to address the board regarding items not on the regular meeting agenda. Comments on non-agenda topics are limited to 3 minutes per comment, up to 20 minutes per topic. A speaker may not relinquish his or her time to another person. By order of the Brown Act, Section 54954.2, the board will take no action nor have any discussion on non-agendized items. The superintendent may provide clarification during superintendent's comments.
Okay. First, we have Talia Lima.
Buenas tardes.
Would you like translation support, Javier?
Yes, please. Buenas tardes, Superintendente Smith y todos miembros distinguidos que colaboran en este distrito. Como madre, yo me interesa mucho la educación de mi hijo y estoy tan de acuerdo en el nivel educativo que el distrito brinda y apoya a los niños como a mi hijo, pero no estoy de acuerdo y quisiera levantar mi voz en que con respecto a la orientación sexual o en la educación sexual, quisiera que la escuela no se involucrara en eso y solamente que como madre quisiera que considerara la posibilidad de que no se les dé orientación sexual en la escuela. Es todo. Con lo demás estoy de acuerdo. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, Superintendent Smith, members of the board of this high-quality district. As a mother, I'm interested in my son's education. I do agree with the high quality of education that's provided here at Newport-Mesa. I don't agree with sexual orientation or sexual education at school, so I ask that that is not offered to students at school. Everything else is fine. I agree with everything else, but I don't think that schools should be involved in providing sex education at school. Thank you. That is all.
Next is Emma Lima.
Muy buenas tardes a todos miembros de la mesa directiva del distrito. Muchas gracias por el trabajo que hacen. Muchas gracias por la educación que brindan a nuestros hijos. Muchas gracias. Pues hoy, verdad, mi opinión no tiene que ver relacionado al tema tratado que están tratando el día de hoy, pero es para mí igual de importante, verdad, respecto a la educación de mi hijo. Pues es verdad que el tema, verdad, de orientación sexual, de todo esto que se está viviendo hoy en día, pues honestamente va en contra de nuestros principios morales y cristianos en casa. Y quisiera que mi hijo fuera excluido de cualquier tipo de evento, club que sea relacionado a esto, y que se le respete de verdad en sus creencias, así como verdad él respeta, verdad, la creencia o a los demás. Quisiera que recibiera el mismo respeto.
¿Me permite interpretar?
Claro que sí. Muchas gracias a todos por escucharme. Gracias.
Good afternoon, Board of Education. Thank you so much for all the work that you do. Thank you for the education that you provide to my son. My topic is not related to anything that's on the agenda, but it is related, very importantly, to my son. Now that we talk about, as the other presenter said, sex education, I think it's against our morals, or against our beliefs, or against our Christian values. I think my son should be excluded from any activities that include these types of topics, any clubs that include these types of topics, and I ask that you respect our beliefs. So thank you for listening to me tonight.
Thank you.
Next is Bryce Kraus.
It's a pleasure to be standing here again before you all. I hope today we leave with a stomach full of reflection. And Superintendent, all the diplomas you have on your walls, and you can't tell the simple truths that a boy's a boy and a girl's a girl. Instead, you choose to breathe deceit into our children's minds. What we need in this town is a superintendent
Please address the board.
that would hold truths with esteem. And Trustee Murphy, I heard your sob story the other day about 12-year-old children. Awful. Awful. You are who we need to protect our children from. You see, we as parents, we set the standard that we hold our children to. Not you. Not you. And certainly not a failing school system. Costa Mesa and Newport Beach, it's time to stand up, Americans. Join me this Friday, 6 p.m., Rising Suns Town Hall, and we'll get to clean this up.
Next is Erica Villapano.
Good evening, board members. My name is Erica Villalpando. I am a mother of 2 school-aged kids, an educator, and a tax-paying resident of Costa Mesa, and a community advocate for the West Side Costa Mesa parents. I am here tonight very concerned regarding board member Michelle Murphy's recent comments. And those parents that were speaking before me, that's what they were referring to. That any 12-year-old student in the NMUSD district should not be able to consent to changing their identity at school while keeping it a secret from their parents with the help of adult teachers, counselors, and administrators. Is that what Michelle Murphy's referring to? The last time I checked, you have to be 16 to drive, 18 to smoke, and 21 to buy alcohol. Yet you're asking 12-year-olds and having grown adults who hold authoritative positions at school, affirming the kids' gender confusion, transition, leading them to possible unnecessary medical interventions, and not telling their parents? On July 6th, NMUSD board meeting, Michelle Bartow motioned to amend a parents' rights policy modeled after Chino Valley Unified School District, which 5 other districts have been added since, and more are coming, that would notify parents if their child is requesting to be identified or treated as a gender other than the student's biological sex. But it failed. President Ashley Anderson, who has no children of her own, Trustee Carol Crane, Michelle Murphy and Leah Ursulu, who I believe's child is not in our school district, voted no. Trustees Bartow, Wagan, and Pearson voted yes. I am urging you all to safeguard our children and respect parents' authority over their children. Parents know their children the best, and their best advocates. They are their best advocates. If such an issue such as gender confusion or dysphoria were to arise, keeping such information from parents is wrong. Last night, I was asked by Westside Community Leader Olga Parra to speak to her Spanish-speaking parents group. Those are the community members that you just saw before me. These hardworking parents are very, very concerned at what Trustee Murphy has said, and they're concerned about NMUSD encouraging teachers to keep secrets from parents. They are also concerned about what is being taught. In the past, there's been pornographic books that have been found in libraries, teachers having kids pledge allegiance to pride flags in schools and keeping secrets from their parents. Let's reassure these folks, these hardworking folks, that by writing a resolution, transparency and honesty is what parents and kids deserve in this district. This is a bipartisan issue, a parent issue, and a safety issue. NMUSD needs a parent notification policy that is passed unanimously. Oh, and by the way, I am not a right-wing extremist mother, just one who cares about her kids and others. Thank you.
Next is Shane Fenmore.
Hello, members of the board. My name is Shane Fenmore, and I'm a senior at Corona Del Mar High School. I stand before you today in order to denounce the actions and ideals of a group that has had a disproportionate amount of airtime in these meetings, despite the lack of support for them in the general public and teaching world. That group being Newport-Mesa Uncensored. They are a group that is based on misinformation, disinformation, and bigotry. Repeatedly, they have shown to misrepresent facts and statistics in order to goad the public into following their beliefs. For example, AR 5145.3 makes all information go to parents if a child under 12 is questioning their identity unless they are under physical harm. However, in an Instagram post on their account from August 20th, Newport-Mesa Uncensored goes on to claim that this regulation indicates that students of all ages may be socially transitioned without parental consent, which is simply untrue, because if the student is under the age of 12, the teacher must report the child's identity issues to the parents so they can handle the issue as a family unit. And if a student is over 12, the school's intention is not to transition a child's gender without parental consent. Instead, school officials will assist teenagers' mental health during a difficult time in order to prevent them from self-harm. Beyond Newport-Mesa Uncensored's misinformation and disinformation is the pure bigotry that they show towards members and allies of the LGBTQ community. In an Instagram post from September 3rd, Newport-Mesa Uncensored posted a photo of the classroom of a CDM teacher, Kimberly Clater, which displayed LGBTQ flags in her classroom. Their goal in this was to goad supporters of the account into believing that the displays of flags meant that the teacher was somehow a pedophile and grooming children, which is dangerously offensive and false. Mrs. Clater was merely giving to support to a marginalized community, which has higher suicide rates than any other demographic. Her support could have helped a member of the LGBTQ community feel more accepted, maybe even saved a life. Thus, Mrs. Clater should be praised, not denounced, for her support. In conclusion, members of the board, remember that the beliefs of Newport-Mesa Uncensored reflect those of a select few people who are remarkable at disseminating propaganda, not the ideals of our district. We must ensure that Newport-Mesa Unified School District is a welcoming and accepting place for all students so everyone can have the opportunity to thrive.
Thank you. Next up is Superintendent's comments. Dr. Smith?
Yeah, I want to thank the community members who attend for their honesty, for sharing their thoughts with us. The parents, I certainly wouldn't correct the first two that talked about the exemplary education that students get in this district. One of the better performing districts in the state of California per all metrics. And we're going to get even better. That's our commitment to all the students in this audience and the parents and guardians watching at home. So One of the better districts, going to be one of the best. That's our goal, and thank you, parents, for recognizing that. I did want to clarify that sex education is a requirement in California. It's part of comprehensive health education. It's a state mandate, a state law, and it requires sex education as a part of that. The good news is, for those of you that don't like that course, is that parents can opt out. And the district over the last 2 years has made that even more available to parents, notifying them sooner and more often, and even electronically where they can do that. So if that's your disposition, then you have that opportunity as a parent. And just so you know, again, that's a state mandate, not something that the trustees here at the dais have decided. And it's not an elementary at all. In any event, that's for those parents concerned about that. And clubs are not mandatory. Students aren't forced to be a part of any clubs in the district, and certainly your students shouldn't be forced to be a part of something that they don't want to be a part of. I think it's unfortunate. People can go back and watch the misrepresentation of trustee language here at the dais, what they've said. What they've said represents state and federal laws established in California in this great country. They've just alluded to those. As the student said, people can misrepresent all kinds of things. There's no recourse, and that's unfortunate. But those of you that care, go back and look at what was said. Also, just so people are clear, having a child in the district is not a condition for serving as an elected official in this great country. To suggest otherwise is just mean, and it's not true. As far as the degrees on my wall, I don't put them there because I put pictures of my family and motorcycle rides and things like that. Not that I don't have them. What they've, I hope, taught me is to better understand the state and federal laws that define what we do in California. The Ed Code, Evidence Code, Medical Code, et cetera. It's given me some recognition of those things. And students in this state have a right against anti-discrimination and anti-harassment. So if you see definitions in binary, that's your decision. The state law says otherwise. It also says that they cannot be discriminated against or harassed for identifying otherwise, right? Here's something else I was taught, to read research. And I've seen a lot of research on suicidal ideation in our youth. This is Suicide Prevention Month. Ironic that we're having this conversation, but I guess it tees us up for the presentation later, right? It's bad enough that our students are one of the groups with the highest suicidal ideation in our country, because being a student is tough, right? The students who are out there in the audience, you know what I'm talking about. It's not easy, right? But do you know what? Students who identify as LGBTQ+, even if you don't define that as such, if they identify, they're like 5 times more likely to have suicidal ideation. And do you know that almost 20% less likely if their school has an accepting environment? That's it. And you don't have to agree with them. You just don't harass them. You don't discriminate against them. So here is what I know and I believe. That we have an obligation in Newport-Mesa to hang a big sign over the district that says, welcome, students, welcome, whether we agree or not. You have a right to be seen, heard, valued, and safe, regardless of how you identify. That's a state law. That's a federal law, as recently handed down, right? In the Chico case, take a look at that. And that's what we follow. More than just a law, though, that's the right thing to do for our kids. If we can save one life this year being accepting, guess what? I'll suffer the slings and arrows of people coming up here misrepresenting the trustees and myself, because that's the most important thing, supporting these kids, every single one of them, even if we disagree. I've said it before, we'll keep saying it. This is what we're going to do. Follow the law, support our kids. We do have a parental rights policy. So you've asked for it to be agendized. It was agendized, duly agendized. It was considered. It was even mentioned what one of the trustees did, and she represented that. You correctly informed the public that it was voted down. That is the democratic process. That's how it's supposed to work. And we have a policy. We have a policy. The board is not compelled to do anything more with that. And our policy in the AR that was astutely recognized by our student follows state, federal laws, the safety of students, and the rights of parents, and that's as it should be.
Thank you. Next, we have community input on agendized items. Trustee Wigand?
This is an opportunity for the public to address the board regarding items on the regular meeting agenda.
We have no cards, apparently.
Oh, no
We have
cards.
cards.
Okay.
Surprisingly.
Sorry, let me just finish reading.
It's very surprising we don't have any cards.
I know. All right, I'll take a back
The
seat.
first time in a long time. I'll take a back All good. All right. Next, we have our report on our summer program for 2023. Ms. Shields. That was my error. Sorry.
Yeah. We're just so sorry.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you. Christy, if you want to start walking up so we can get the computer ready. We're very pleased tonight to bring to you an ensemble of amazing people who helped create the summer opportunities. We'd like to recognize, of course, Kathleen Leary, who started this program several years ago, Lori Hernandez this year, carried a lot of weight and made so many things happen at the elementary level. Keith Carmona did the same at the secondary level with Mike Shotka. But it really does take a village to raise a summer school program, and there were a lot of options. As you've heard from parents, there were a lot of options for students in Newport-Mesa this summer. Christy, we welcome her with this position. She walked on, I think it was June 13th, if I'm not mistaken, right into summer school. She was very happy about that. And so she'll kick us off, but we do have multiple voices to share the multiple programs that happen this summer for so many of our students. Thank you, Christy.
Thank you. Good evening, Dr. Smith, President Anderson, members of the board, executive cabinet, colleagues, and guests. It is my pleasure to be here tonight sharing an update about the 2023 summer programs offered throughout Newport-Mesa Unified School District. I want to express my gratitude for your support of the students and families within our district with the various opportunities available this past summer. In my experience, anything done well is done as a team. I am fortunate to be a member of a team that is here to share about 4 different summer programs. This evening, you will hear not only about the elementary summer programs, but also from my esteemed colleagues about the secondary summer school program, the extended school day, and the Summer Language Academy. While I am the one presenting about elementary summer school, the credit and accolades must go to Dr. Lori Hernandez, Director of Teaching and Learning for Elementary. She took the lead prior to my hiring, and it was the time and effort dedicated by her and her team that made the elementary summer school program possible. The 2023 summer program, led by Dr. Hernandez, followed the 2022 model developed by another outstanding educational leader, Dr. Lori Hogard. There were many details associated with the elementary summer program, which were based on 3 foundational goals. 1, to provide a safe, positive, and supportive environment for students to learn and grow during the summer. 2, to support students academically in reading, writing, and math, along with providing enrichment opportunities, allowing students to pursue passions and interests. And finally, to provide opportunities to socialize with friends and peers. Based on survey results from parents, students, administration, certificated and classified staff members, the summer foundational goals were accomplished, along with gathering important information to consider for the 2024 program. The 2023 program was designed based on the previous year's implementation, along with gathering feedback from stakeholders and collaborating with district departments. The program had to meet requirements from the state's Expanded Learning Opportunities, or ELOP guidelines, which included to offer full-day program opportunities and to offer enrollment to at least 50% of unduplicated students. All NMUSD students were invited to participate free of charge to meet these requirements, with additional communication provided at our Title I school sites. There were 5 host sites this summer across the district, including Ray, Wilson, Sonora, Mariners, and Harborview elementary schools. Enrollment and school assignments were based on each student's home school. The program was 20 days long, beginning on July 5th and concluding on August 1st. There were 2 different schedules available to all families, including a morning program consisting primarily of reading, writing, and math. The second option was a full-day program where students were able to attend the morning and then stay in the afternoon to participate in enrichment opportunities. Meals and transportation were provided. Staffing consisted of NMUSD teachers, support staff, and contracted partners, including Strategic Kids, Brainstorm STEM, Active Learning, Alivo, Arts and Learning, Conservatory, Recess Art, and Contempo Ballet. Based on observations and feedback gathered from stakeholders, there were many successes associated with the elementary summer school program. To begin with, over 1,600 elementary students participated. 477 of those students were English language learners. 213 students with special needs participated in the general education summer program. It was heartwarming to read through the survey results and to witness the program in action. The program provided a safe, positive, reliable environment for students, which I know was a relief to many families. When the staff was asked what was the best thing about being involved in the summer program, the overwhelming response was the students. The staff were student-focused, collaborative, and positive. Students and parents greatly appreciated the enrichment opportunities in the arts, STEM, and athletics. And then finally, another overwhelming success was simply the chance for students to socialize with peers, playing with familiar friends, and meeting new ones during the summer. Overall, there were many successes. Stakeholder input and observations from this past year also gave us information to consider for the 2024 summer program. This schedule being an important component to review. ELOP guidelines require a full day option that concluded at 5 p.m. For some families, this works really well, and for others, it is too long and conflicts with other summer commitments. Yet multiple and unscheduled dismissals really puts a strain on school staff. Additionally, we will discuss how many days the program will operate in the summer 2024, doing our best to juggle the ELOP guidelines, supporting families, and assessing the bandwidth within our district with staffing, facilities, and the site needs to wrap up the school year, host summer school, and then reopen for the fall. Another consideration will be to explore schedules to align more closely with other programs across the district. Aside from reflecting on schedules, reviewing the program's objectives and the impact on academic performance, including professional development and collaboration for certificated and classified staff, along with pre- and post-student achievement metrics will all be considered. Just as we want our students to start, stay, and finish strong during the traditional school year, the summer program is designed for students who can regularly attend every day of the program. Frequent student absences impact the quality of the program's offerings, staffing, and facility demands. Finally, with anything in Newport-Mesa, we strive for continuous improvement and growth. Thus, the reflection and preliminary planning are already underway to provide a quality program for our students. Thank you for the opportunity to share about the elementary summer program. I am optimistic about the 2024 summer program, and I'm now going to turn it over to Director of Teaching and Learning for Secondary, Keith Carmona.
We're trying to get to go to the next one.
The down arrow.
There we go. Good evening. We would now like to highlight the secondary education offerings for the students that participated in our summer school program this summer. The robust offerings in secondary education included chances for students to catch up on missed learning and credits, others to get a step ahead, and also programs that benefited from, where students were able to benefit from enrichment opportunities. We hosted summer school opportunities at all of our comprehensive middle and high school campuses, though the programs were slightly different between the middle and high school, between the two levels. At the high school level, we provided students the opportunity to earn both initial credit and also recover missed credits through a combination of both in-seat in-person and online classes. At the 7th, 8th, and 9th grade levels, specially identified students participated in a bridge program, which had the intended purpose of giving students a head start on the school year, on the coming school year. School admin teams collaborated with elementary schools to select 6th grade rising into 7th grade students that may require some extra assistance based upon grades, school attendance test scores, or other factors. Invited them to be part of the program. It wasn't required, but invited them to become to be part of the program to get a step ahead. A similar process was used for students that were rising into 9th grade, so middle and high school staffs working together to identify students that could use extra support for a bridge program. These 7th, 8th, and 9th grade students received support in English language arts, mathematics, and each of the students received an elective class intended to build interest on the different offerings at each of the campuses. Our program ran different dates than our elementary program. It was June 20th to July 20th, Monday through Thursday. This schedule was selected, which helped ensure students would have access to other programs going on during the summer, including the Summer Language Academy, which you'll hear a little bit more about, and then also hopefully greater access to athletics if they're at the high school level. Similarly to what you heard at the elementary level, all students were provided meals, and we transported students to and from the programs if they fell within the kind of the same transportation boundaries that we have during the regular school year. So, in total, some of our successes, we're proud to say that 5,212 credits were earned by students going into 10th through 12th grade, which is an increase over the year before. Nearly 1,000 more credits earned from the previous year. Included in that number, and this is an impressive thing, so 330 credits were earned by rising 9th graders in that high school bridge program. So just to put that in perspective, we talked about providing an extra kind of a boost for the students that are coming into high school. That means that those students, those 9th graders that earn those 330 credits are actually starting 5 credits ahead. So for those 9th graders that are walking into high school, that typically would be those credit deficient students, or could possibly be those credit deficient students, we hope that they're not, are actually coming into high school ahead of their peers, which is really exciting. In total, we served 1,151 students. Again, we grew the program in comparison to last year. And we know that typically our English learners and our students with special needs really could use additional support, and we're proud that we served 274 English learners and 119 students with special needs. So really targeting a population of students that could use some additional support. One program that we would like to highlight that is just a little bit different was a decision made at Estancia High School with the bridge program at that school. Rather than take the route of providing support for English language arts, math, and an elective class, which is certainly beneficial, the school recognizes the value in the CTE programs that exist on that campus, and are really seeking to build student connectedness on campus and encourage students to become involved in those programs. So the students that were 9th graders, or rising 9th graders going into Estancia, participated in a kind of 3 elective course offering pathway over the summer that provided an introduction into 3 of the CT pathways on the campus. This included access to all of the wonderful facilities that we have, and getting them excited about what those programs would entail, and also included field trips during the program. It was a big success, and the kids gave us some pretty positive feedback, and we're looking to be able to not only replicate it for the coming year, but examine what that might look like at some of the other schools as we consider what summer school would look like next year. Our most popular courses in the credit recovery and the initial credits at all of our campuses were algebra, comp lit, and biology. Those tend to be the classes that require the most amount of support. The last piece that we'd like to just talk about is the role that the admin intern plays. So each of our summer school programs is really the role of the principal, so to speak, is by our summer admin interns who, as you know, come from our teaching ranks. And it provides a unique opportunity for these individuals to build their leadership acumen under the supervision of principals and other district staff. And I will say that the success of our secondary summer school program, in large part, is due to the incredible work and the leadership of these summer admin interns. So it's really refreshing to see, future leaders being kind of created in the summertime as we watch these programs take place. As we think about what our program can look like for next year, we have a few considerations of things that we're exploring, and you're going to notice some of the same trends that we heard just previously in the elementary world. We're looking at refining our hiring practice. Because we had such a comprehensive program at all of our middle and high schools, we required a large amount of staffing, which required us to also not just offer that to our Newport-Mesa teachers, but to expand that out to teachers that would be coming from outside of the district. We struggled at the early part of our ability to hire, and so at the end, collaboration between Ed Services and HR, we found a way to be able to make sure that we were fully staffed, but we're going to be looking at that to make sure that we're going to do a good job coming into the 2024 summer school program. As you heard from our elementary programs, there were incidents where there was lower enrollment and some attendance issues. Because it's an invitation-based program, and we know that our families are busy over the summer, there were campuses where some of the class loads were rather small, and so we want to look at what we can do to really maximize impact. We want to build on the success of the Estancia program that I just described to you. And we're going to look at where it might make sense to consolidate programs. If we've got really small programs running at certain sites, is there an interest in possibly consolidating programs to maximize impact? And, if we've got small class sizes or small programs, can we bring those together and provide a rich experience in a more consolidated way? So, thank you very much, and I will pass it on to our expanded learning. Okay. Oh, no, extended school year, and that's going to be Elsie. Thank you.
All right, good evening. So extended school year was definitely one of the first highlights of my onboarding, and I have to say it's been nothing but fascinating watching the first 20 days on the job with our amazing staff and students and parents. So just a little background on what ESY is a service. ESY services and special education related services are provided to students with disabilities that is beyond the regular traditional school year. And it's obviously in accordance with the students' IEPs, and that those needs are determined annually by the IEP team. So the purpose of our ESY is to assist students in maintaining skills that might be at the risk of regression, or for students with severe disabilities to maintain or attain those critical skills that are necessary. So as we go into sharing some of the highlights of our ESY, So in our ESY program, we fully operated at 3 sites this year: Woodland, Ray, and Harper. And so the instructional days, very similar to the elementary conversation that you heard, was 20 days. We started on July 5th, right after the 4th of July holiday, and we ended on August 1st. So some of the work that we are very proud to share is that the number of students that were served were 316. And I kind of want to couch this as 316 students in our ESY. Sometimes our numbers increased, sometimes they decreased, but I want to kind of stretch your thinking a little bit more to invite the conversation that happened earlier with some of our students that have an IEP participated in the elementary and the secondary programs too. So when we think think about our students who participated in ESY, our kids with an IEP were there, they were in elementary programs, and they were in secondary programs too. So we actually cast a wider net, but for the focus of this portion, it's on ESY. We also had, because of the Enrich program at Ray, just shy of 20 students that actually went to the after-school program, which again was that nice partnership that the students were able to go beyond the day for the first time. And we had a lot of great feedback from our families about that opportunity that we were very proud of. Staffing statistics, we had 31 teachers, just a little over 100 aides, and then the support staff would fluctuate. So when we're thinking about support staff, it could be our OTs, our occupational therapists, adaptive PE teachers, our autism specialists that might be working in some of these classrooms in a variety of different ways. And so definitely a great deal of support and service for our students. So when we talk about our summer, I want to share with you just some of the reflections that we had during the summer. We, as a team, we actually put out, I believe it's 4 different surveys. We surveyed our staff, we surveyed our aides, our instructional assistants, and our behavior interventionists. We also surveyed our parents, and then we surveyed teachers too. So again, we wanted to really get different perspectives, those that were the aides that were working directly with the students, our teachers, our staff, and then again our parents. So when we think about the parent reflection, there's a lot of different bright spots that I want to share with you. What's really important for us to highlight is just the power of the social interaction. So when we think about these students being able to keep and maintain or sustain those interaction opportunities with peers, with other teachers, with other adults, parents really felt that that was a big powerful piece for them, getting those additional 20 days in to support that. The other piece is really looking at solid routines that were established quickly, engagement, both academically, social, emotionally, peer-to-peer, and then that directed, guided learning that just continued on with the school year. So, we think about instruction, we do the I do, we do, you do. So lots of that happening, again, just to cement and keep those skills building. When we think about positive affirmations, I definitely want to share with you, we had some great feedback from our parents about our transportation department. So we all know that our transportation department carries the most precious cargo for us in the world. And again, there were just lots of great feedback about the transportation services that were provided to our students during the summer. In regards to the considerations for 2024, one of the things that we've looked at is just the start time and the student hours. So we try to break that down. Some of our parents had some input regarding the actual starting time right after, again, that 4th of July weekend, and then just having to build that up. So if I'm the kid that doesn't really like to wake up in the morning and I got that 2-week, I think it was a couple of weeks of a break, building that back up. So maybe if thinking about ways that we can keep that going sooner than later, that's something our parents really asked us to consider. And then the hours piece was another component. And so when we think about the hours, particularly for our working families, our families that have siblings that are going from different sites, again, whether it's the high school to pick up the credits or a different enrichment site or things that are maybe not provided by our district. And so when our parents are trying to get all that happening, looking at the times and the hours are something that they've asked us to consider. And then the other part is really looking at that community-based instruction. So whether it's looking at hands-on opportunity or different experiences beyond the walls of our classrooms and campuses, which are great experiences, but again, going outside into that real-life experience and opportunities is what our parents are sharing with us. So for our staff, which was great, is we looked at that targeted explicit instruction and having just the beauty of that extra time to enhance academic skills. So whether it was English, language development, mathematics, being able to just finite and refine some of those skills with our students is really key. And as you think about ESY, again, we're really tailoring to the needs of our students based on the IEP. And so some of those daily schedules could look different or vary class by class, teacher by teacher. Again, it's need by need, a real personalized approach to learning. And so we think about some of the activities that happen outside of the academics. We're looking at social skills, some of our curriculum like ULS. We're looking at some spirit days. Even our APE or adaptive PE teachers had a dance, and they had some friendly competition activities. So again, we're really trying to build and touch in those key elements of academic, social, emotional, and again, really elevating that social interaction with our students. The other component I want to just identify with you is the staff working with different teams. So if I'm at Sonora and I'm working at Ray this year, I get the beauty of getting to know other staff members that come from different sites. And how powerful is that? You know, we get the good fortune of being at the district office and getting to see all these staff and just the amazing things that they do. But when they get to bridge together for 20 days, it's just not only just those 20 days that they work, but they build a connection, they build a relationship between that teacher or the aide or the office staff. So for our administrative team, we had our coordinators that were assigned to our different elementary sites and the Harper site as well. It was a nice connection and a complement to the after-school program, particularly at Ray, where they had, you just heard my colleague talk about the admin interns. So our coordinators being able to work with those admin interns, you know, as summer administrators and leaders of that school to make sure that we're complementing programs and services from one part of the day to the other, as you know, I shared with those 19 students in the, during summer. The aid support, the teachers were great. We had lots of staff that just gave kudos to the teachers that were there, the hardworking staff. And again, many of our teachers don't work at those sites specifically, so learning how to navigate that and then having some amazing aids and supports with our leaders, our coordinators that are supporting that work. Our staff also talked about some student considerations, and so the biggest one that we heard about was the behavior. And so quickly we adjusted, and what we have are some amazing AUT specialists that we call, that were going out there working in the classroom, supporting the teachers. We also have other aides that were in there. I'll kind of share a little bit, just another about BIs and some training that we did. But again, we have a lot of specialists that were there to quickly adjust and support those teachers and staff that had those additional needs. The other consideration is just time to familiarize students and parents to a new site. So it's great that we're going to a new site that we may not know about, but that just takes time to adjust, right? So where's the classroom, where's my behavior? And so for those students, you know, who might have different disabilities that need a little bit more gift of time to know where I'm walking to, what that classroom is, who that teacher is, just that time to familiarize. And so having that time to prep and think about that in advance, particularly if there's a lot of unfamiliarity elements that are going into ESY. Class sizes, so you heard my colleagues talk about attendance. So sometimes those numbers increase, sometimes they decreased, and we know that the biggest predictor of student achievement and success has to do with attendance. When kids are there, they're learning, they're ready to grow and grow with our teachers. And so class sizes was one that we looked at and are continuing to look at as we move into the coming ESY year. And then the last piece, again, is just that later start time, earlier start date, looking at those as opportunities, and not just as teachers, but also the bigger picture for our families who might be running from site to site and getting their child there maybe a little late or early. And so just being able to navigate that for our families with multiple siblings. And then the last piece that we're really excited to share this summer is we launched a behavior interventionist training during ESY. So we are so excited, again, led by our coordinators, our AUT specialists, and so I'm not going to name anybody because I'm still learning names, but they were all an amazing team, and I don't want to miss anybody. But I had a chance to actually participate in day one and just learn what the team was doing with our candidates that had actually expressed an interest and were sitting in on that BI training. And so it was held at Ray. It was a 5-day training with our own folks, which was great. And the beauty of this is because we were in the middle of ESY, what better place to get that hands-on learning is going into those classrooms. And so we had 19 participants that signed up, 16 that actually went through the 5-day training. And so part of the training, if you look at the left picture down on the left bottom side, we had a training room at Ray where the participants were there learning some of the critical skills and language and strategies. And then on the right picture, what you see is I was walking with one of our OT specialists and some of the candidates that were going through the certificate or the training in the classroom real time and learning what these strategies look like and getting to apply them hands-on. So just a beautiful opportunity. It was a lot of work on our on our team's planning part, but again, just a very powerful piece that we got to integrate and layer on top of our ESY program. So I think I'm going to go ahead and turn it over next to Laura Delpash.
So very excited to share with you a little bit about Summer Language Academy. So we are in our 7th year of Summer Language Academy, and every year evolving and growing based on our students' needs. I want to acknowledge that this program was brought several years ago by Vanessa Gailey and started, and so we're continuing that good work. We had about 30 students. Our program focuses on newcomer students, usually in their first and second year in the country, grades 8 through 12, and we held it at Estancia, so thank you to Estancia for hosting us for the last few years. It really focuses on project-based learning that allows students to explore their language, their culture, their community. We partner with California State University Fullerton for our curriculum, and so that's exciting. I believe this is our first year we had all of our schools represented, so we had students from all of our schools this year. Our program really values primary language and leverages that. And so we had about 5 languages represented this summer, which was very exciting. A unique thing about our program is that we have professional development and coaching embedded. And so we start prior to our program with some unique professional development. Our teachers are not all ELD teachers, so we have content area teachers as well. And then that professional development continues through the program. We have debriefs every day. We look at student work, and that coaching continues. I'm excited to share that our teacher on special assignment focusing on newcomers was our lead teacher for the summer and did a lot of planning and program development, and she's able to continue that through the school year with our teachers and that connection with our students. I'll go to our successes. So quite a few things, but thank you to my secondary colleagues. We were, for the 2nd year, able to schedule Summer Language Academy so that students were able to participate in the other secondary programs. So they didn't have that conflict of choosing, so that was exciting. We increased representation across our schools, so we were able to have students from all of our schools attend. And then parent engagement has historically been an important part of the program, and some of that was put on hold during our pandemic years where we couldn't have parents come on campus. And so I'm excited that this year we brought back our opening session that we did with parents. We did that on Zoom because we found that that was a better way to get their participation and have more involvement. But this is the first year in a few years we've been able to have our opening session. And then we have our school community facilitator that worked all summer, Jacqueline Gaetan, and she was able to help with that parent engagement piece throughout the program. And then really exciting, we were able to bring back our showcase. So we hadn't done that in several years, so we had a really beautiful showcase where students presented their projects or shared about their experience, and we had quite a few parents and district staff, principals that were able to come attend and support their students. So really exciting after so many years of not having that, able to have parents back. So considerations, you've heard some themes. Looking at scheduling and being really student-centered, we want to continue to schedule in collaboration with secondary ed so that we can maximize student opportunities. Leveraging primary language has become more challenging as more of our students are not Spanish-speaking. So we were able to do some of that this year with Russian-speaking instructional assistants, but we want to continue to explore that. And adding leadership opportunities for our students within our program. And then really exciting is extending our program. Again, this started right before the pandemic and we had to halt, but we're able to bring back our plans for Saturday Language Academy. So we're bringing forward similar concepts, similar project-based curriculum, and we'll be hosting 6 Saturday Language Academies throughout the school year at 2 of our campuses, but open to all of our students. So really focusing on leveraging that primary language and that experience for our secondary newcomers. And I have the best introduction because we have one of our Summer Language Academy students here to share with you. So he presented at our showcase and was willing to share with you tonight. So he's going to share a little bit about his experience and one of his projects. So I'm excited to introduce Kenley Lopez. He's a student at Costa Mesa High School.
Good evening, members of the board, Superintendent Smith, and cabinet and committee members. My name is Kenley Lopez, and I'm a 10th grader at Costa Mesa High School. I was born in Nicaragua, and I have been in the United States for 1 year. I attended the Summer Language Academy at Estancia High School. While I was in the Summer Language Academy, I learned about the importance of teamwork and everyone's support and collaboration. I also discovered how to get to know my classmates better and have the opportunity to interact with people from different cultures. This picture shows my choreography. I chose to write a lot of words, but I chose 3 words to tell you. The words I chose was basketball, dedication, and flute because I know how to play the flute and it is one of my favorite instruments. And also I chose to write the word basketball because I'm a big fan of basketball leagues and I would like to be one of the best basketball players in the world. The last word I chose was dedication because I'm always trying to do my best and I'm a person who never gives up. This program was meaningful to me because I interacted with people from other countries, gained confidence, and further improved my abilities to speak English in public. Also, we had the opportunity to work on various projects such as a comic or a micrography, which help us develop different perspectives and thoughts. And most importantly, to get to know ourselves better. And thank you for supporting the Summer Language Academy.
What a wonderful story to hear, and thank you, Kenley, for reminding all of us of why we do what we do and why this work is so important to provide these opportunities, the diverse opportunities to all of our students. So thank you so much, Kenley, for sharing your story. As I began the presentation, one of the statements that I made was that anything done well is done as a team. And with each of these programs, it was truly a team effort with our certificated and our classified staff. It would not be possible without each of them and the many departments who contributed, who worked, already put in so much time and hours and effort to support our traditional school program, but then to provide these diverse learning opportunities, the socialization to really make this possible for the students and families. It would not happen without all of the departments in our school district. So while we are the 4 leaders up here representing 5 leaders, including the students representing these programs, it is truly a team effort. I want to thank you for the opportunity to share tonight about these 4 programs. And right now we will open it up to questions for any of us that presented this evening. Thank you.
Do you have any questions? Trustee Crane.
Okay, first of all, it was a superhuman effort because not only was school already in session and you're worrying, and the team is worrying about the now, we also at the same time were planning for summer, not only that, but also for fall. So I can only imagine the effort and dedication by the lead team and the teachers who also may not have as many weeks off because they chose to work and serve our students. So thank you for everyone for that effort. I was doing some very high level math And so, and came to the conclusion that we served 15% of our student population. Think about it for a second. 15% of our kids went to summer school this summer. That's 15% of kids who were socializing, not staying at home, not necessarily staring at four walls, being productive, and that's quite a feat. So thank you so much. I'm not even sure if any schools in the school districts in Orange County engage their students at that high level for so many weeks, 20 days. So wow, thank you. I did have a couple of questions. Elsie had mentioned a survey. Was that across the board or just the ESY parents? And if it was a survey, was it a thought exchange or just kind of an unofficial sort of survey?
Sure, and I'm happy to invite my colleagues up here to join me during this question session. I can speak on behalf of the elementary program that there was a Google form that was utilized, and it was provided to all parents at each of the 5 sites, provided in English, Spanish, as well as in Russian for our Harborview community. In addition to the parent survey, student surveys were conducted for all grade levels in our elementary program, as well as our certificated and classified staff members.
Okay.
And so we piggybacked on my colleagues. So I think the first week that I just joined, she had shared with me this survey that they had done. And so we just really copied that same concept on a Google form as well. And so we used a Google form for both our parents, our staff surveys as well. So it's very similar in style and setup.
Thank you. And then I noticed that there were 2 different timelines as far as the start date for elementary versus secondary. And was that mostly because of staffing, logistics, or maybe a mixture of both, and along with the Summer Language Institute, so that the kids who are in the Summer Language Institute can also profit from the secondary program?
Part of that actually is driven by elementary and the ELOP requirements. So part of what we needed to do was establish a number of days within a certain school year, and our school year changes July 1. And so we were aiming to get days for this school year. Secondary isn't bound by that, so they consider the needs of students and trying to keep a continuum, not a lot of time off, as you heard, and keep that going. And then Language Academy falls in after, so that high school age students can participate in both or either. But what will have to drive our discussions this year is how we meet those minimum days in elementary school. And if there is a penalty to because the funding is determined by a certain program.
Right. Yep.
But we can build in the penalties if that's what works best for our community and that works best for all of our families. So those are the discussions we're going to have in our after-action reports as we prepare forward.
And then I had the privilege of visiting Estancia High School and looking at the newcomer Samoan language program, and that was fascinating to me. I did love the fact that regular teachers were also part of the summer program, language program. And one teacher specifically, I think she was a science teacher, she said basically it kind of injected more energy into her teaching and her career. She was really excited to be there. And I'm really happy about the fact that you're going to have a 6-session Saturday program in order to continue the progress. I like that, Laura. Thank you. That's it. Okay. Just wanted to comment. Good job.
Trustee Ursulou.
Just a quick question about the 6-week, the Saturdays program. Which 2 sites are those?
So we are going to host, we're going to host at CDM and Costa Mesa. CDM will be for CDM students and Costa Mesa will be for our other sites, and that's based on student need and numbers. So looking at our largest critical masses of newcomers and then adjusting so we can transport the least amount of students. So those are the 2 sites slated right now.
Awesome.
Great.
Trustee Wigand.
So piggybacking on Trustee Ursula's question, on the summer, or on the 6 weeks Language Academy, and even in part of the Summer Language Academy, were we able to offer or understand the need of those newcomers within like wraparound services that we could provide if they needed, things for housing, for school supplies, all that kind of stuff, not just a language academy, but really any kind of support that we can provide them?
Yeah, so that probably is always an area we
Okay.
can always grow with, but this was the first year we had our school community facilitator all summer. So typically we've done the first few days, and we opted to have her there all summer, and she was in close contact with all of our families all summer on any type of needs. And then, as I shared, our teacher on special assignment was our lead teacher. So she knew many of those students going into summer, and then it made new connections that she continues through. So I think we can always improve upon that wraparound piece, but I think we did a better job this year than we have in future years, and we'll continue to improve.
And I just also want to recognize Laura's department at the end of the year, went out to sites and spoke with families and teachers where we were having changes in demographics and having influxes of new groups of newcomer families and communities to really understand how to best support them. So that happened at the end of the regular school year, throughout summer school, and picked up in August before people's return to school, and has continued throughout the school year. So really getting to understand all of our communities. I'd like to thank the board for sharing resources in the community with us as these populations grow and expertise grows dealing with different populations. So that has definitely begun and is ongoing.
And Socorro reminded me, we also did that in that parent session. So we had lots of time and opportunity. Jacqueline gives out, how to reach us so that, and we make sure that's known. That's not just for 3 weeks in the summer, that's ongoing. So she gets a lot of business that way. So.
That's great to hear. We do have a lot of resources, so I'm glad that they're being offered. Thanks.
Trustee Barto.
Yes, thank you again so much. This was really impressive, and I didn't want to forget to say that before I ask my very small question is, are the surveys, how good was the response rate, and are we basing the time, the need for different times based on staff feedback or parent feedback, or those surveys? How are we coming to the conclusion of needing different times?
Sure. Speaking to the elementary program, I would say that we had 75% response rate across the board, depending on the different subgroups. We will be taking that survey feedback. I think it's really important to take all of that into consideration, and then also working closely with M&O facilities, HR. Staffing is a really important part of the summer programs, and so I think it's really important that we pay attention to both our staff and our community feedback when we're planning out next summer's program.
Thank you.
Trustee Murphy.
Oh, I just wanted to say thank you for this presentation. It was amazing. So thank you for all of your hard work. And especially on the ESY program, that's just like music to my ears. And so thank you so much for all of your hard work and for really taking into consideration the needs of special needs families, because they can have a lot, kind of pulling them in different directions. And so to really be cognizant of that and try to accommodate their needs is just really delightful to hear. So thank you so much. I appreciate it. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you all. And next, we have reports. We have our suicide prevention report. Ms. Torres.
Yes, good evening.
Mrs. Coley.
Yes, come on up, Sarah Coley. As you heard Dr. Smith allude to in Superintendent's comments tonight, September is Suicide Prevention Month, and so we thought it'd be appropriate to bring together and share with you our resources and how we address suicide prevention in our school district. So our Administrative Director of Student Services, Sarah Coley, is here tonight to present to you.
Thank you. Good evening, President Anderson, Superintendent Smith, as well as our board. It's an honor to be here tonight to share the work that we're doing with suicide prevention here in Newport-Mesa. So as we know, September is Suicide Prevention Month. So we are about a third of the way in, and it is a month to really reflect on the practices that we have to be connecting with our mental health advocates, as well as other organizations, survivors, and allies to really focus on suicide prevention and what we're doing, not only within our schools, but really nationwide. World Suicide Prevention Day was this last Sunday on September 10th. And again, it is a day to reflect and to be focusing on those who have been affected by suicide and to raise awareness. And we are on day 2 or day 3 of Suicide Prevention Week. Day 2, so Monday through Sunday this week is Suicide Prevention Week. And again, is a time for us to be reflective and to share stories and resources. So as we know, suicide is one of the leading causes of death in the United States. Suicide was among the second leading cause of death for 10 to 14-year-olds, and this data was from 2020. Suicide was the third leading cause of death among individuals between the ages of 15 to 24. And in 2021, 69% of our LGBTQ youth reported feeling persistently sad and hopeless, compared to 35% of their heterosexual peers. LGBTQ youth are also more than 4 times more likely to attempt suicide than their peers. So as we do with all of the work that we have, we look to see how this aligns with our LCAP goals as well as our board priorities. And so this does align to our LCAP goal number 1, which addresses our student mental health and physical wellness. We engage students in programs that support behaviors that contribute to a better learning environment. And goal 1, action 4, as you remember, was to add more elementary counselors, and we will talk about that in a little bit and highlight the work that this extraordinary group of people have done. We also have our board priority, number 2, that supports expanding the whole child support. So our NMUSD process and resources, so everything that we do is guided by our board policy 5141.52 for suicide prevention, which talks about the education as well as the prevention and postvention suicide strategies that we use, or suicide prevention strategies that we use with our students, as well as the education of our staff. AB 2246 is the suicide prevention policy that discusses student education. We use signs of suicide, or SOS, which is an evidence-based program that we deliver to our 7th and 9th graders through our secondary counselors. It also covers our mandatory staff training. We use youth suicide awareness, prevention, and postvention. It's a course through Keenan that is through our mandatory staff training every year. Additionally, this year we have AB 748, which was added to the education code, which requires mental health postings for all institutions that have 6th through 12th grade. So you'll notice as you do site visits, these posters in our 6th grade classrooms, in our counselor's office, as well as through our secondary schools. This poster too, just to highlight, it does include resources for not only mental health awareness, but it also includes our community resources, as well as the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. So as we know, nothing replaces a student feeling connected and included in their school, but we do have our staff available if a student does need that additional support. So we have our elementary counselors, which we are excited again to share that we have 22 full-time elementary counselors. We are fully staffed to have a full-time counselor at every elementary school. The feedback within these first few weeks of school has just been overwhelmingly positive, that the work that they're doing is really making a difference and people are seeing it. So we're grateful to you and your support on that, and really to this group of people for the hard work that they're doing. We have our secondary counselors. We have 29 secondary counselors who support our students in the middle school and high school level. I do want to highlight too, our counselors are school-based counselors. They are not mental health counselors. So they provide school-based counseling, but they're not going to be providing clinical therapy to students. That is something that we refer to the outside organizations. Okay. We also have our school psychologists. We have 36 of those. And then we have rebranded. So formerly you may have heard of our SAIL team, which has sailed away. And so now we have our student services behavior specialists as well as our special education behavior specialists. We have 3 for student services that are on the general education side, as well as our 2 for special education. And then our student services and special education social workers. So we have 4 within student services and 2 within our special education department. In addition to that, we have our risk screening process. So anytime a student expresses any sort of self-harm, suicidal ideation, anything in which there is a concern, we will conduct a risk screening in which our staff, who is providing our school-based mental health, is trained in. So to share with you, this year, we've had 16 risk screenings as of this last Friday. Comparatively, last year around the same time, we had 7. So we've more than doubled the number of risk screenings that we've had this year so far. Last year, we had 226 risk screenings total. And then the year before that, we had 202. So we've seen growth, unfortunately, in our risk screenings, which all the more reason why we've increased our staff to support our students. So again, grateful to you and the support there. To give you some consideration, when we screen a student, they can be green, yellow, orange, or red. When a student falls into red, that means that they need a professional referral to receive support. We've had 3 so far this year in which students had to go, and we've already had 2 students that we know of who've been hospitalized. When a student is hospitalized, we do have a new protocol in which we have students re-enter. So historically, students would be discharged and then they would come back to school. We would hope that we would catch them. Now we have a process or a protocol in place, which is a multidisciplinary team that meets. We discuss with the family what we can do to best support the student as they re-enter back in, so that really that student is supported from the time that they come back to us, making sure that all of the appropriate professionals are in place. In addition to that, we want to highlight our community partners because we couldn't do this work without them. So we have a variety of medical partners who provide that intensive support to our students. So when a student is hospitalized, we have a fantastic partnership with CHOC. Every time we have a student that has to go in, they notify my office, so then we're able to communicate with the site. They also share the student's safety plan, so again, we're able to be at the forefront of supporting that student when they return to us. We also work closely with College Hospital, which is right here in Costa Mesa, as well as Hoag Hospital, who not only provides support to families, but also provides support to our staff through trainings and different professional development opportunities. We also have our community partners who work specifically with our students in supporting their mental health. So Be Well Orange County is a mobile crisis response team that is relatively new to serve our Newport Beach area. We do utilize that partnership, and so our staff will call Be Well, which is free to our families. It's an extraordinary service, and we really rely on them and lean on them when we have students who have more intensive needs. We also have Care Solace, which is our coordination service that we can refer families to if they need outside connections to support. We also have a partnership with the Hoag Neuroscience Institute, the Weichman Clinic, who will come in and they help to present to staff, parents in the community, to help with things such as how do we manage stress, how do we manage anxiety, and those things especially as we go through the school year. We also have the Mobile Crisis Assessment Team, or the CAT team. We haven't utilized them as much in the last few years because a lot of times they are fee-based. And so if a student is transported to the hospital, they will receive a bill for that. And so we recognize that not all families are in the position to be able to do that. And so we will use them if we need to, or if a parent asks us to, or if law enforcement's involved for some reason, then we will refer to the CAT team. Then we also have Turning Point, which are on all of our secondary school campuses. They work with our students to provide additional school-based counseling support. And our other community partners, so again, this work wouldn't be possible without the support of our county office. So they help with providing mental health and wellness care coordination, as well as we work closely with our regional mental health coordinator. We also have a strong partnership with Patrick's Purpose, who's provided a variety of buddy benches throughout the district, including Sonora, which was their first school that they served, Ray Elementary, Whittier, Corona Del Mar High School, Newport Harbor High School, as well as most recently Davis Magnet School. We're grateful to them and the partnership that they have with the district and the continued support that they have of our students. So with that, thank you for all that you do to support our team and to support the mental health of our students. We appreciate you and your dedication to their mental health.
Do we Trustee Murphy.
Thank you for this. even though the numbers aren't super great. But thank you for all the information and for all your hard work and for the team's hard work. And I'm really just throwing this out there, not that you can do anything about it, but I would love to see Costa Mesa be on the Be Well team.
You would too. Anything you could do would be great.
Any Costa Mesa City Council members listening in, be super great.
We can work on them.
Yeah, little plug there for them to join Be Well. I know it was, it's extraordinarily effective. It's so much better than calling the police for school sites to be able to call Be Well. And I've seen them in action, and they're responsive and effective and so professional, and it's just great. So thanks for calling them first.
Yes, thank you.
Trustee Ursulou.
Hey, for the buddy benches, what, do we have any data on sort of just like interactions observed, observational data, or anything quantifiable that shows that they're useful, being used?
Yeah. We don't have anything quantifiable yet. We can certainly be reaching out to our principals to see if we can start to gather more of that data, but that's certainly something that we would love to see and be able to measure the impact of having those benches at the school.
Yeah, and then my second question was, if we find that they are indeed useful, is it only that foundation that supports those benches, or could we consider spreading the benches? If they work, can we do them at all of our, like, at least elementary sites? Like, what, is it cost prohibitive, or is it just that foundation kind of picked those schools?
Patrick's purpose, that was one of the things that they wanted to be able to bring on board, and so we've been able to partner with them for those benches, but that wouldn't preclude us from adding benches at any of our spaces.
Awesome.
And we do not have hard data on that, but anecdotally, when you visit schools, you see the spirit of which the benches are there. They're well taken care of. You do see students participating and hanging out on those benches, but we'd be happy to collect that information for you.
Awesome.
May I jump in real quick? We just connected Christy Flores with Kim Turner because the Patrick's Purpose Foundation is actually seeking some ideas to kind of partner with the district. So this conversation may be happening in the future. So, but I do know what you're saying. Is it effective? Is it being used? And maybe we have students in the audience. I know CDM has a bench. I don't know, can they speak from the audience? They can't. Okay. Well, you can perhaps go and speak after the meeting, Peyton, and see if the bench is used during the school year.
We can connect with that.
Would you explain a bit about Patrick's purpose, and perhaps Trustee Pearson can explain also why that foundation exists?
Sure. You want to start? Or you want me?
Well, you can go ahead and start.
Okay. So Kim Turner is the mother of Patrick Turner, who passed away by suicide. And so they started this foundation to really bring awareness, but also to help his memory live on. And so really the work that they do helps to bring to light the effects of, just different societal pressures and the things that students are experiencing, so that it can be at the forefront, but then also to continue Patrick's memory. Obviously, unfortunately, suicide has touched our district for a number of families, and so we're grateful to Kim for bringing this to the forefront and to really keep his memory alive. And she has just been such a strong partner, and just really are grateful to her and all the work that she does with us.
Yeah, it's an incredible group of women on the board, and they want to help, and they want to be there for our children. They're doing a wonderful job, and they'd be more than happy to add benches. I mean, that's their goal, is they want to be known for one. They're trying to find what they exactly want to do, but they would be happy to put benches at every school if they could.
Trustee Wygand.
I just wanted to say that I really like how you have a reentry process for those students that go off and need extra help outside of the school, and that they come back and they have people monitoring them, because I think that that's pretty crucial for when they come back and learn how to handle everyday life again back at some place. So I really like that we're not only finding them support outside of the school, but also bringing them back into our general ed classes and providing them still that great support. So thank you for everything you do.
Thank you.
Yes, Student Board Member Howerton.
I had a question about the the risk screenings. I was just wondering what would lead to or determine a student doing one.
Sure, it's a great question. So if a student expresses self-harm, or if we find evidence, or maybe a friend has reported self-harm, or we're concerned that maybe they are having thoughts of suicide, then our staff would step in and do a risk screening. So there's a series of questions that they ask. They consult with another colleague at school who also has that school-based mental health background. And then they also notify an administrator. Parent is also notified every time that we do a risk screening, so then we can provide the parent with resources. And so it really is a way to try to prevent a student from going down the path of maybe hurting themselves or of committing suicide.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, thank you for the question.
Trustee Crane.
Yes. I did appreciate you clarifying that our counselors that we just hired to be 100% on each campus are not providing therapy. It's not clinical, it's site-based intervention. So, because I know that there is some thought out there that we are providing therapeutic services, clinical. So thank you for clarifying that, because that also helps me understand.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to add, I know we are providing a lot of resources, and one of the things that I learned about from one of our community partners at Melinda Hogue, Michelle Rose, was about stigma-free OC.
Yes.
And so there are a ton of resources and toolkits, and I think there was something that I found also that is for students that is called the Directing Change program and a film contest. I don't think we've ever been a part of that. But I think it would be, there's a lot of resources on there with Every Mind Matters that there's also like workshops and training, social media, mental health. I think a lot of these are really important and relevant, and as well for students to pledge and commit to stigma-free OC and having honest conversations. So I just wanted to also highlight that since we have lots of students and also folks who have resources in our neighborhood.
Yeah, thank you. And we do partner with them through the Orange County Department of Ed for the Mental Health Awareness Month in May. And so we utilize a lot of their resources. So great. We really appreciate them, and they do have a lot of information that's available to us. Thank you.
Wonderful. Trustee Barto.
Yes, do we still have on the back, and I should know because I have high school students, but I haven't looked at their student ID cards. Do we still have that information for suicide prevention on the back of their student ID cards?
We do. It is a legal requirement for secondary. So yes, it is. The suicide hotline is on the back of their student ID cards.
Awesome, thank you. And then just probably because it's Suicide Prevention Month, but two different community organizations, well, one of them is Chalk, and another one reached out and asked how to share their resources that they have with our district to get it out via, one of them was trying to do it via Peach Jar. The other one, Sybil just sent me an email asking if we could share with our district so that families could have access to these webinars and things that they're putting on. What's the best way to kind of share, just share that with you? Is that
send
okay?
them my way.
Okay,
Be
perfect.
happy to,
All right,
happy to
thank
talk
you.
to them.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And next, we have Mr. Trader and Mrs. Wiggins, our report on Facilities Master Plan.
We're happy to bring to you an update on our Facilities Master Plan, and Ada, our Facilities Director, will introduce our architect for that.
Hi. Hi. Good evening, Superintendent Smith, President Anderson, trustees, cabinet, and our guests. Thank you for being here. So I get to do another fun project, district-wide this time. So we're really excited about the master plan and our efforts that we've put into it thus far. I'm actually not going to be able to speak too much today. You know, I'll probably chime in a little here and there. But I have Brian Leonard. He's with DLR, which is our architecture firm. And he's been spearheading our project for all of our campuses and taking a look at those so we can develop this master plan. So he's going to go into the presentation and share where we are in the process and what our next steps are. And then I'll be here to support and answer any questions that you have. Thank you.
Hello. Thank you for having me. It's good to see you all, Superintendent Smith, President Anderson, and members of the board. So it's good to see you again. I think last time I was here, we were introducing the process in kind of a kickoff fashion, and we are underway in the process. And so today I'm here to provide an update on a little bit of what we've done and where we're headed to next. The last time we presented, I presented the approach, which is kind of a detailed approach about all the complexities that go into this master planning process. And what we really wanted to do is, since we're moving from the assessments stage into more of a community input stage, we wanted to distill it down into 4 key concepts that are really the forward-facing aspects of the process to your community. And so I'm going to talk through each of these 4 aspects that we're going to be looking at. The first one, the facility conditions assessment, that's really the detailed assessments that we do on each of your campuses. You know, my team, all we do is schools. All I do is schools. I love being at board meetings. I love supporting. I love supporting the vision.
Lost all credibility.
You
can come to all of them. We meet monthly.
Well, I'll offer them. The passion that your team has. I have 3 boys myself, and I know how important your jobs are. It is meaningful to me. My wife's an educator. I design educational spaces. That's what our lives are about. So I'm really supportive of you guys and what you do, and your staff and your students. This is really meaningful work. And so not only have I enjoyed being here, but my team, we've had 5 senior architects that have visited every single one of your campuses now and met a lot of your fabulous staff and dedicated principals and talked about the ins and outs of what's working and what's not. And so now that we've finished that process, now we're going to be shifting phase to engaging your community to find out what they think about your campuses. And all of that is to be done prior to master planning at all. So we want to do all the fact finding, all the information gathering before we move into that master plan stage. And then again, we will reach out to them and to your whole community through a digital survey process that will allow them to respond and comment on the plans that are produced. Now, you'll see a combination of both digital and in person in the presentation. And so we want to just explain kind of what that process looks like. But also we wanted to emphasize that because I love board meetings, I'll be here often. So, you know, we talked about things before we started facility conditions assessments. I'm here now before we start the community outreach. And then we'll be meeting again to give you an update on what we heard. And then we'll obviously be meeting with you before all the master plan information goes live on the website. And then again, after we collect all the survey information, we'll be meeting with you again to see what the input has been. So here's just some brief photographs of that our team has taken from all of your different sites. This is just a collection. It was really fun wandering through halls, seeing kids' backpacks, visiting your CTE spaces, libraries. You have a really diverse range of campuses and educational environments, and it's a lot of fun. We enjoy that process of seeing how and where you guys operate. But as we're moving into this engagement process, we've been collaborating with your awesome team, the facilities team, and talking through what would be the most ideal set of meetings that we could provide that is most supportive of your community. And so we've kind of come up with a process that we think is going to be helpful for, and I've highlighted just 4 specific reasons. One is they're listening sessions. We're not doing any planning. We want to hear from the community before we propose any ideas. And so that's going to be a personal engagement process where we're going to be meeting with people in a workshop format where people feel heard. And so everything, all the comments that they make will go on a sticky note. We'll have boards for each campus, and everybody will have a chance to be heard. So that's kind of the tangible in-person sessions. The format that you're going to see is that it's going to be specific, so they'll be able to provide input that's specific to each campus. And then we're proposing that we actually have 5 different sessions 4 of those sessions would be based on high school attendance boundaries, and all of the campuses within that attendance boundary would be represented at that meeting in that workshop format. And the reason why we're proposing that is it's a lot easier for parents of students of multiple campuses to attend one convenient session to provide all of the input. And so there'll be multiple phases of workshops within the one session so they can move around and provide input for each campus. And so that's going to be, I think, the best way to encourage people to participate. And then the last thing, the really positive element to these in-person meetings is not only do we get to hear from them, but they get to hear from one another, and they get to hear from us. So it's mutual education. They're learning from us in the same way that we're learning from them. And that is really helpful for developing consensus. Some of the elementary school parents might learn a little bit about what's going on in the high school and vice versa, so that you develop a well-understood set of goals and an understanding of different issues that different campuses are facing. So here are the high school attendance boundaries, and so the idea would be to have 4 sessions, each with the high school attendance boundary. And then we had some really great feedback from some of your principals at some of the alternative education campuses that you have, that they said, you know, we might not fit in with this high school attendance boundary. It'd be great if we could have our own meeting because we might have issues that are a little bit different. So we thought that's a great idea. So we're going to have a 5th session, and it'll be focused on just those campuses and their needs. As far as schedule, we're tentatively planning to meet on, I don't think we've defined any specific dates, but it's going to be in October, weekly, depending on a date that's convenient for each of those high school attendance boundary areas. And then there's a digital component to this. So there's not only the in-person meetings, which are going to be a dialogue where we can engage with people and write out very detailed things. We also have, for those community members and parents that can't find the time to attend these things, we've created a digital survey that's online that is a very brief survey. It's designed to connect both at the front of this process, but also the questions that we're asking kind of anticipate some of the information that we'll likely have at the end of the master plan process. It's designed to be taken in less than 5 minutes, and it's just a star rating, and it gets information that's specific to just what kind of priorities that they want, and what's the quality of those different categories for each campus. And so those surveys are really straightforward, and we also have them in translated for both English, Spanish, and also for Russian. So apparently you guys have Russian in your district yet. We need to have that included. So that's there. There's a QR code on the page, so if you want to get to this digital page. Now I will say this master plan page that we've got set up will be the clearinghouse for all the master plan data in the future. So that link won't be changing in the future. So right now it's just a very basic page that leads you directly to the survey. But in the future, once the master plans become available and after they've been vetted, they will all show up on the website. And it's a really fun, dynamic, interactive website. I've got, these are slides that we showed to you last time when we kind of gave you an understanding of like, oh, this is what that master plan page is going to look like. It will look something similar to this, and it's a lot of detailed information about projects, their potential cost, what kind of improvements we're talking about, whether they're modernization or new construction. So each campus will have that, and they're interactive. And then there's also information for each campus that's, we're mining a lot of data, actually right now, on census data that you have for each of your campuses and the different boundaries for each of your schools. And so that information will be available to the board and to the public in an effort to be fully transparent. All right, so that's the survey process and the master plan. And then the last step is, again, to have one more survey. And this is a really fun, we work with a special web designer that is able to help us connect not only the content at the beginning that we're taking, the surveys we're producing now, but we actually get to have interactive master plan documents so that the survey can be interactive in the plan itself, and it allows them to prioritize what they think are the most important projects, and also to provide feedback and comment on the plan itself. All of this is gathered in a database. Technology is amazing now. so that we can have all that data and you can have a firm grasp on what your community thinks about not only what was important, but what we're proposing. And the goal is so that they really feel like they've got their fingerprints on the whole process, so nobody's really caught off guard by what we propose in the end. All right, so we talked about facility conditions assessments, which we're just now wrapping up. We're about to start community outreach. We've got the master plan documentation that would follow that, and that'll be sometime hopefully around January, and then the surveys would follow up with that master plan release, and that would hopefully wrap up in March. Did I miss anything?
No, I just wanted to add something.
Sure.
So when we were talking about the master plan itself and this database that we're going to have that prescribes what all the projects were that we identified through the process, basically calling it the menu. Like, what's our menu look like for Adams? What does it look like for each of the sites? One of the things that we're working on as we're doing the master plan is also to include the safety studies that we've done separate or independent of this, to fold those projects into the master plan. What exactly that'll look like, we're not exactly sure yet because we haven't received those reports yet, but that will be added into the master plan, as well as the deferred maintenance, the maintenance master plan as well. So it's gonna be everything you can pretty much think of that you'd wanna do at a site, and we'll have it on paper digitally. Available to us so that we can pick and choose what we need to prioritize and budget and time-wise scheduling. So it's going to be super valuable, as well as you know, all along that we've been doing the development of the master plan, facilities is still working on projects. We've had projects initiated district-wide, like the elementary schools we're looking at, or we're working on the plan to implement new playground equipment with the shade elements. We know we're looking at some intermediate shade that we need for the elementary schools for the lunch areas, so we're looking at that, as well as the long-term permanent shade structures. So as we're doing these projects, it's kind of funny because we meet with Brian and his team, but we're meeting with other architects who are working on those other projects. So I'm like, oh yeah, by the way, we're putting, 2 buildings there, or we're adding a shade structure there. So your master plan needs to reflect that. So it's a dynamic process, and we're talking all the time. So we're going to have a great product once we're done with this project. So I'm really excited to be a part of this. The last master plan I was involved with was in Irvine Unified in 1997. Yeah, I'm old. Hitting the 50-year mark. So that's all we had. If you have any questions.
Trustee Crane?
Yes. Mr. Leonard, I like your positive energy. It's really nice. Question, has your group worked with this scope and approach before, and where have you found the most challenging part of the process?
Yeah, so we do a lot of master plans. So we're currently doing, I think, 3 or 4 different master plans across Southern California, including like Pasadena Unified, and we've recently did Sacramento Unifieds a couple years ago, and these are very significant, involved master plan processes. Our company actually does master plans nationwide, so it's kind of a specialty of ours. The most challenging process, I think probably the biggest effort is the community outreach process, just because of the number of people that are involved. So it can sometimes appear cumbersome and difficult to manage, but we have a structured process that we use to manage these discussions so that all the input that we get actually is directed towards something that's actionable. So we are very careful about how we manage these meetings and make sure that people feel heard, but that we're actually moving in a direction. We also try to be as respectful as possible with people to make sure everybody can see their feedback received and documented. And when people feel listened to, they actually are very collaborative and support the process. So that's probably the most challenging, just because of the people, but the rest of it has its own set of challenges.
I was going to say scheduling the meetings.
Yeah, scheduling meetings can be a challenge. Yeah.
Thank you.
Trustee Weigand?
Thank you. I'm excited for the facilities master plan. So when we talk about timing, are we sitting here saying on this last slide that you will be presenting to us the facilities master plan in January or March? Or when do you think that final plan will be available for us?
So correct me if I'm wrong, but the anticipation is that we'll have a draft done in January. Internally, I don't know necessarily, and you can tell me if it's different than that, that it would be publicly shared at that point, or if that's the final step is after the survey.
Yeah, so I think we could, I mean, depending on how, if we're able to get all the meetings done in October, our hope is that we'll be working through the master plans through the month of November and the first half of December, and then there's assembling the website and then the holidays. So we put January down, but I think you guys can expect to see it in January. And then I would hope that sometime middle, end of January, we'll have worked through things with your team such that it can begin to go live with the public. And then the survey period is as long as you would want it to be. It's typically a couple of months to make sure that people have enough time to get in and interact with the page.
So then after the survey, and we say, okay, the community feels these are the things that are important in this facility master plan that you came back to us, then what does the timing look like for us to say, okay, great, set in stone, we've now voted, this is our facilities master plan, and we're going with all of these priorities?
Yes, so master plans are typically not set in stone.
Okay.
It's a living document.
Yeah.
Okay, this is good to know.
It's intended to be evolutionary. Things happen. You just don't know. And so what's really useful about the survey is there will be some pieces of information that might be new that comes back that causes us to change the master plan in some small way. It's not typical because we usually do a pretty good job of listening from the beginning. So we try to avoid any changes to the actual proposed plans. But the survey information is very useful to you. And then when we share it back with the public, it justifies decisions that you guys can make. It's a lot of useful data to say, hey, we heard from all the respondents that, 75% think this. And so that supports why we're making those decisions. So it allows you to have good data, being transparent with your community. It's good to just develop, again, that idea of consensus.
So I'll just add that I think we'll probably have some formal board action where we accept the master plan. That way we can pay them their fee, 100%. But then really, as it relates to establishing priorities and projects to move forward, that's just going to be an ongoing discussion, no different than the way that you approve projects today, other than we'll have something to pick from that was already discussed, that was already, identified as a priority to some degree. And then we need to make sure we have the money, right? So then it's all based off how much money, how long are these projects going to take? In the next 3 to 5 years, we want to spend $100 million. What projects from the menu can we select that could be accomplished in that time frame? And so that's how it's going to work once we have the master plan accepted by the board.
Yeah, and one thing I'll say about a master plan that's really great, and that you get to do all of your campuses is even better, but each master plan is a roadmap for what you guys can and should be doing for the next 30 plus years. Doesn't mean you have to do everything now, but when you're able to do all of your campuses and do consistent master plans for all of them, you'll start to notice trends with elementary schools and middle schools and high schools. And so it really gives you a roadmap for decision making district-wide so that you can think strategically. And the thing that we want to help you to avoid is if you have an urgent need come up, we don't want you to do a project that might invalidate another project that you have to do in the future. So that roadmap is really critical. And so having that camp or district-wide is really strategically helpful.
And even without a master plan, we think about that currently and
Yeah,
have been.
we
So
do.
we know that if we're going to put a reload here or some future improvement, we're not going to let a foundation spend money on a project in that area. So we do that anyways. It'll just be a lot easier for us to do it with a master plan.
Great, thank you.
Trustee Ursulou. Hi, thank you for the presentation. So my question is about the community outreach element. What do you mean by community? Like, who exactly do you want there at these meetings, and how are you going to outreach to them? Like, do you want, for instance, like, do you want current students from Estancia? Do you want them to show up? Do you want their parents? Do you want people who haven't been on a campus in 50 years? Like, who do you want at these meetings? What is most useful? Are, like, all the teachers in the site? Like, are they useful? Like, what is useful for you? And then second question is, are you going to code the data based on who's giving which feedback? So if we find that like all teachers want a new teacher lounge, but all the students say, oh, this back door, whatever alley is, we want it redecorated or whatever. Sort of what's that plan and what is it that you want, so that maybe those of us up here, we can help with the outreach, but I don't know who you want there.
Yeah. Everybody and anybody. I mean,
Anybody.
Really,
Okay.
it's the intent is to, receive the information for whoever is interested in providing feedback so that we can implement it. As you know, people who are interested in projects will come to that specific project or that issue. So depending on just each individual's interest in the district and whether or not, they're a neighbor and they, empty nester who doesn't have any students in their household, they may still be interested because of lights or sound or traffic or those other issues. So they may attend those meetings for that purpose. So really, we're not prescribing or limiting who we would expect. It's really an open door for everybody. And then as we understand who those participants are, then we can really and there's a standard way of identifying who provided what feedback, where they came from, were they a student, were they a teacher, what area did they come from. But if we get some other areas that we weren't intending, cities could show up to these meetings. So it could be anyone. I don't know that we're trying to narrow it by any means or really target any particular group. It's really everybody. We need this input for this process to be valuable and effective. And so we want as many people as we can, because we don't want to adopt a plan and then later have people come back and say, we weren't invited, we didn't know about this, we weren't a part of the process. That's happened to us too many times. So wide open doors, everybody come, let's hear, let's listen.
Thank you.
And then that's going to help us with getting all of the communication coordinated with, the outreach.
Great. Trustee Crane.
All right, so I did scan the QR code.
Yeah.
And the survey is really nice because it's very user-friendly, but I did have a question.
Yes.
If I am a parent from, let's say, the Newport Harbor zone, we have a high school, and the parent has a high schooler, a middle schooler, and then an elementary schooler, 3 different sites.
Yeah.
Does the form allow feedback for each separate campus, or do they have to go and do it every single time?
Yeah, as great as technology is, we do have limitations.
Okay.
So.
But that's okay. I mean, as long as we know.
It's one of the
Have
reasons.
their husband do it.
It's one of the reasons why we try to keep things as brief as possible.
Right. It was very friendly. It wasn't very complicated.
Yeah.
It was nice.
So we've had. It's not my phone. I
The
promise.
survey, I apologize. I clicked on the survey and my music came up, I apologize.
The survey includes music. So it's a great user experience. All right, thank you.
Yeah.
The website does look great. I was wondering about the master plan page that has the projects and the costs.
Yes.
Will this be accessible within, yes, that one. Will it be accessible within the survey, or is this something that is part of maybe the January
Yeah, that'll be in
documentation?
January.
Okay.
I've got a lot of work to do before we get to that point.
Yes.
so.
I know, that's one of my other questions. Are we deciding dates tomorrow and sending that out? October's very
We're
soon.
working- So we potentially have, the first week is October 4th. We're just trying to figure out what day of the week is best and if we could have it every week on that, same day or not. So we just have targeted starting the meetings the week of October 4th. We haven't pinned down the date, but we'll be doing that in the next couple of days and getting those out.
Okay.
Typically, I think our policy or regulation says something about having to notify at least 3 weeks in advance of the meeting. So that would be our goal, right around that 3 weeks, because that's what they would say, the sweet spot, right? Too soon, people will forget about it. Too late, they won't be available. So 3 weeks is about the time frame that we'd like to.
I would differ. People this time of year are really busy, so the sooner you can get that out, the better, and then remind them 3 weeks close to, because, we're like 4 weeks
We're
out.
there.
Yeah. And then I was wondering about the January master plan documentation. Would that be something that we would want to maybe follow up in February with a study session? So we would get some of that information, be able to track it kind of more in real time?
Certainly.
Yeah, I mean, we could definitely do that, and then, the way that, so when it looks like a lot of time in between, right? January, why is it gonna take us till March? So from our daily operations, in order for us to get a board item to you, it's almost a month in advance. So when you see something, 2 months later, it's just because of deadlines and things of that nature. But we could definitely either have a special study session, or we could have a study session attached to one of the board meetings, whatever.
So I think last year we did one in February on the budget, so maybe it would be good to have those bookended,
I think
so we can discuss the plans and the budget.
I think it'd be good. I mean,
that's a
just
good
looking
idea.
at some of the ideas,
idea.
just based off of what we know now, it's gonna be very thought-provoking.
Can't wait.
Great.
Yeah, so staff talked recently about just that, having our governance study session after CSBA and the reshuffle at the beginning of the year, and then come back in around January, February, like you suggested, and do budget and the facilities. I've never seen a facilities master plan conversation not be done in a study session, because everybody has an opinion, and it's hard to do anything else that night with all the interest in this. And so we would concur that that's the best way to schedule it.
There was one other thing that I neglected to mention. Before we get to these community meetings, we are scheduling internal meetings with all of the assistant superintendents and their direct reports, so that even though we've heard from, each school site personnel that participated in the site analysis, and they'll also be could be participating in the community outreach portion of it, we're going to be meeting with all of their teams and their direct reports, so we hear from our counterpart directors in the operations side of the house. So just know that that's happening as well.
Great, thank you. Do we have any other questions? Good. Thank you so much. This is really wonderful, and we're very, very
Thank you.
excited. And we're glad to have you. It's
Yeah.
great to have someone who cares so
Thank
much
you.
about this.
All right.
Okay. And next, we have a legislative and state budget update. Trustee Bartel and Murphy?
Yes, this is kind of an in-between time because all the bills get signed on by October 14th, but there's just a couple that are very likely to pass that would probably be of interest to our board. SB 551 is a mental health bill that's come back a couple of times. It's sponsored by CSBA, but it's to include school districts in mental health funding conversations, because a lot of times that happens at the county level and school districts are forgotten. So this would require that school districts in some capacity, some representative from school districts, be included in those mental health conversations. And then also SB 765, which would waive the retired teacher mandatory waiting period of 180 days. With the teacher shortage, there's a lot of interest in that. And so that is something that these two are very likely. I mean, there's no crystal ball, but they're predicted to be very likely to be signed. Then there's another one which has come back a couple of times, I think 3 times. This is not a CSBA bill, but this is it's SB 653, and it would provide funding for hearing aids for deaf children. This is the furthest it's ever made it. It made it through both through the legislature, and now it's on the governor's desk. So if that comes through, that would be really, really great, because it would help a lot of families with deaf children. Do you have anything to add?
Nope, that's perfect.
All right, that's it for us.
Great, thank you. All right, next we have item 19, the consent calendar. Do we have any questions or comments? Do I have a motion?
Amend it.
Yes. Would someone like to make an initial motion to, yes, we need to pull, but to amend,
Do you want me to make the motion to amend it, or just to?
to move it, you can move it with the amended.
Okay. I need to find the number, so maybe someone else can do it.
It's 22B2.
So I would move to approve the consent calendar with the amendment of removing 22B2 for further review. Sounds like there was some concerns there.
It should be 19.
It's not 22, it's B2.
Incorrectly.
Yeah.
Oh,
The whole
someone
consent
else
is
is welcome to do
19.
it. I need to
Yeah.
find this.
Yeah, it's just
Maybe I
B-
need to
just
find your
B2.
glasses too. I need to find the.
19.
No, on our copy
Oh,
it
it's
says 22.
19B2?
19B2.
19B2.
Start again? That's weird.
So are you saying you wanted to pull 19B2 from the consent calendar?
Yes, so I think that there were some concerns, and we wanted to move it for further review.
Okay, do you have a second?
I second.
Okay, moved by trustee Barto, seconded by trustee Ursulou, or I'm sorry, Murphy. Roll call vote?
Trustee Anderson?
Yes.
Trustee Crane?
Yes.
Trustee Wiegand?
Yes.
Trustee Pearson?
Yes.
Trustee Murphy?
Yes.
Trustee Ursulou?
Yes.
Trustee Barto?
Yes.
So we'll bring it back when we have some of our questions answered. Okay. And next, we have item 20, discussion action calendar. Approve the 2022-23 unaudited actuals report. Mr. Schrader?
Good evening. So this is the moment you've all been waiting for. I know it. Just make me feel good here.
Suspense is killing me.
All right, so every year we come to you with the unaudited actuals, and this is looking at 22, 23, and it's a snapshot as of June 30th on where our finances were at that point. And so you approved that. It's required by Ed Code, and we do it in conformance with all of the state standards, GASB, governmental accounting standards, all those rules. There's hundreds of technical checks. And so I hope tonight that I don't put you to sleep, but that you are able to sleep soundly because you know that the accounting is being done appropriately and in compliance. So with that then, we also report this to the Orange County Department of Education and to the state. And so, and then we also, we update our beginning fund balances. So it's a lot of effort there that we go in to do that. But let's take a look at 22, 23. And you can see here, here's enrollment. Enrollment is still trending down. We're down about 118 students. That's about 60 basis points, 0.6%. It's pretty typical for our area and for what we've been doing recently. However, it's starting to bottom out, and that's a good sign. When we look at restricted revenue is higher than we had expected. So taking a look at June adoption, and then we walk through all of the reporting periods, first interim, second interim, estimated actual, and unaudited actual. So when you take a look at here, and this is what you want to, as this is great for accountability, because we come to you and we say, hey, look, we started the year and we said we were going to be here at the end of the year, right? And so this is going to show you kind of what we said we were going to do and then where we actually ended up. So budget, June adoption to unaudited actual. So take a look here. Again, you see here, we kind of have a big adjustment on the restricted side. And this has been typical. The last couple of years, we've had a hard time nailing the restricted dollars. The state's made some changes, we've made some changes. Oh my goodness, there's a lot of activity on the restricted side. Had a little bit of a hard time nailing that down. So you see that adjustment there at first interim. And then you go into the estimated actuals here, and we're pretty steady. We come down a little bit on the restricted side again. Unrestricted is pretty steady. And so here you see then on the actual, we end up a little bit higher. Actually, unrestricted revenue is a little bit lower, 1.7%. Restricted revenue higher by 54.2%. So expense is lower than we expected when you take a look at our expense. Now, one thing you need to know is when you look at year-over-year expense, so you take and you compare 21-22 unaudited actual expense with 22-23, guess how much that increase was between year over year? Just kind of think about that. What would you think that increase was or decrease was? It was 11.4%. That's a pretty healthy clip. You all have the pedal to the metal. You really do. We're doing a lot of stuff, and it's showing up in our numbers. And it makes me a little nervous, but 11.4%. So when we get to the unrestricted expense here, you can see there we first interim, we go up a little bit. On the restricted side, you see that a little bit more. And throughout the year, then, it's just a standard. We are adjusting upward, right? And then when we get to estimated actual, and what happens to estimated actual is we go through all of that and we say, oh, you know, what, are you guys really going to spend all that money? What is happening there, right? You said you were going to spend this money, but are you really going to spend it? And so we really do a shakedown at estimated actuals to try to get to, you know, what is really happening there? And so you always see this kind of the amount go down at estimated actual. And then, of course, here we are at unaudited actual, stays we're pretty close there, not too bad on the expense side. So encroachment and transfers out, these are, so we transfer dollars out of the general fund to handle large capital projects, and there's also then a contribution to support some restricted programs like special ed, transportation, those kinds of things. So when you take a look here we are at June adoption, right? And then we get into first interim, we make that adjustment, we go down on transfers out, encroachment stays about the same, and our total, of course, adjusts appropriately, stay same there. Don't make any real adjustments at second interim. However, estimated actual, transfers out, we increase quite a bit. And we come down a little bit on the encroachment, and you see that. Now, here we are, unaudited actual, big jump in transfers out, and so you can see there it impacts the total. So a big change in transfers out. And then let's take a look at our ending fund balance. And when you look at ending fund balance, we increased $10.9 million on the unrestricted side and $25.7 million on the restricted side. So you can see there that we're ending fund balance has been adjusted upward, and that's fairly healthy, mostly on the restricted side. So then let's look at, you may wonder now, well, that's fine, we have this ending fund balance, but how much of that is really set aside for reserves? Like how much can, when you think about your bank account at home, how much do I have to set aside in case of an emergency or something like that? So some time ago, the state came out and they said, 17% is the right number for reserves for a unified school district. And so when you take a look here you see, here's our ending fund balance. You see it's going fairly dramatically up. On the left-hand side, you see the dollars there. That's in thousands or millions. And it's over it's about 109 million. And so you see that dramatic come up. Well, a lot of that has to do with the restricted side. We've got a lot of restricted money recently, and then that's going to start to go down later on. But then here comes the key. This is what what you've been thinking about is, well, what, as a percent, where are we? Are we close to the 17%? And you can see here we're approaching that 17% number. We're at 15.9% closed out for 22-23. And then most of our expenditures, of course, are on instruction and pupil services. You can see there ancillary services, general admin, and plant services. And I looked to compare this to last year, and it's the same exact chart. So the numbers didn't change. The pie didn't change at all in that regard. And so in summary, our actuals are prepared in accordance with the accounting manual. Our enrollment decline is flattening. We have a lot of intervention and other services are being maintained. And all of that's baked in to our multi-year forecasts. So we're really pleased about that. We just want to make sure that the real estate market stays robust and resilient. And then also Dr. Smith had requested some time ago that we develop some metrics that will help us to plan ahead or actually give us a little bit of a warning before we actually have a problem. And so we came up with some financial activators. And I want to let you know in the narrative, you'll see there in the narrative, all of them are acceptable or favorable. So the future, we don't have any warning lights going on for the future. So with that then, it's been a pleasure to be with you tonight, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. Trustee Murphy.
Jeff, you're the best. I just have to tell you that. Can you do all of the reports? No, I'm just kidding. So real quick though, we can take the restricted funds and put them into reserves?
So we don't do that. All of that is on the unrestricted side. So all the money you see being transferred out of the general fund is unrestricted dollars.
Okay, so it's just,
Yep.
got it. Okay, thank you. And I know it makes you nervous, but I heard from school sites that they love their counselors, and it's been a huge help. So
that's good.
Don't be too nervous.
Okay.
Trustee Crane.
Okay, so this is related to the budget, obviously. Is there any new scuttlebutt coming out of Sacramento now that October 16th is approaching, and how are the state revenues, taxes? Are we seeing, because I know that we were anticipating a deficit of $26 billion that went up another $9 billion. So how are we looking? Do you know anything?
So we were just talking about that in a meeting the other day. The state feels pretty confident that they can take care of this $35 billion deficit. So
without digging in their reserves?
Right.
Okay.
So they have these reserves. They feel like they're in a good space. They're seeing the economy. They're not seeing the economy tank,
right?
Which they were fearful of, and so they're hopeful and actually pretty optimistic.
The inflationary forces are slowing down. Yeah. I think that's helping. Okay, good. Thank you.
I was wondering related to the financial activators. I know we had discussed this a bit last year. When we have our study session around February, would that be a good time to perhaps, because on the unaudited actuals on page, I believe it's page 5, it looks like a majority of them we are in acceptable, but like 1 point under. We could be in favorable. So would that be a good time to adjust? I mean, something just from like 4.5 to 4.6, very small amounts. Is that it? Do you need board direction to do that, or what is helpful for those threshold amounts for us to make decisions as a district?
We're always open to the level of appetite you have for risk to know that. And so, yes, we certainly would want to know your thoughts are about those thresholds.
Okay.
Yeah, I think what we would have to do then, people in Jeff's job love when board members ask that question, how do we do better at these activators so that we're not as close to the warning lights. So we'd have to bring forth budget proposals that would get us there. And so then the board would have to consider those budget proposals. And I think that's what you mean by their appetite. For risk. Because, to increase those numbers, we have to do something else. But Jeff would be happy to put that together at that time.
Well, for instance, one talks about the reserves, but then also one is routine restricted maintenance. And so it looks like acceptable levels are 4 to 6%, and we're at 4.5. And I think there might be an appetite among us to go to 6% would be favorable because there's a lot of maintenance that we need to do.
Lance is going to have a heart attack with that.
That's a 2 thumbs up from Lance.
I'm glad you brought that up because we have never, ever been even close to 4.5%. That resembles a tremendous amount of work. We have never done this amount of work, maintenance work on our sites ever. And so it's really thankful for your support in making that happen.
So that would be a very acceptable thing. I think there might be a need and a desire for that in the future.
Can I, on that point, just so maybe some of the newer trustees understand, to do that, you have to do something else, right? And so they talked about tonight the facilities master plan. I thought the softball question was, what's the toughest part? I think the answer is affording it, because it's near impossible to afford the whole plan. So it's a perfect time to have that conversation about facilities and routine maintenance and what we might have to do outside of our normal operations to generate those kinds of funds.
Well, I think one of the reasons why it comes up for me is because we haven't necessarily been allocating 6% or greater towards that, we then now, after 20 years of not funding that, we are going to have to spend twice as much perhaps as we would have needed to had we been focused on 6%. So I don't think it's necessarily us affording it tomorrow. I think it's more of helping in the future, so we are kind of more aware of what we can afford and planning it out. But I think one of the things as well that we always are looking at is the amount of revenue that's actually coming in. We almost always underestimate what that's going to be. So if even in June we thought it was 429, but it's actually 458, I mean, that's almost $20 extra million. So those are the types of things that I don't think it's necessarily that we have to scrounge and feel like where's the money coming from. I think it's more just good budgeting and ongoing budgeting. So one of the things that I was wondering for that page, for page 6, where it has the combined restricted and unrestricted general fund budget adoption summaries, when it's talking about revenue and it says other local, and it's in the June budget it said 8.4 million, and then our unaudited actual is 17.5. What is the other local cover? Is that strictly? It's not property tax, so what is that other local amount, and why is it so much, 10%, $10 million more?
That's a great question. That is all community support. We have a very generous community, and as the year goes by, right, the donations come in, and so then we ramp that number up. Sometimes I'm a little reluctant, or budget is reluctant to say, hey, let's bank on these donations before they happen, and so we mark to the donations as they happen. So you'll see that number go up throughout the year.
Okay, so that's PTA, that's
Correct.
foundations,
Yep.
all of the combined, right? Okay, and then my other question connected to that is for the restricted section. It looks like we initially had 11 million was in the June budget, and then now it's 37. So what is that difference? Where is that extra money coming? What is the 30 or the 25-ish million dollars additionally?
So we had a couple issues there. The state originally came out with a unrestricted resource code for an art and music grant.
Oh, yes, okay.
And they flipped it to restricted. And so, and then we also had some write-ups associated with ELOP and also with some federal money that we weren't expecting.
Okay. All right. And then on the top part of that, for expenditures for capital outlay, it looks like it was at 8 million, but then our unaudited actual was 5. Again, with maintenance and facilities and all of these things, what is the $3 million that we did not spend? Or what were we budgeting 8 million and we're at 5?
So a lot of that is what we call site mods out of here. So anyway, site modifications. And so sometimes timing of those things, we think, oh, we can get this much done in this amount of time, and our sometimes we don't meet that schedule. And so as a result, then that money will get rolled over to this year.
Okay, I have one last question. In the beautiful district general fund reserve approaching best practice slide or graph, I know we're always shooting for 17%. That always sticks in my brain. And we, I think with our additional COVID funding, we're so close there. And I think 15.9, we're almost there. If we want 17% to be there every single year as that is our baseline, do we, because at one point I think there was we could talk about policy or how do we institutionalize that 17%? I just am concerned if we were to go back to 8.8 or 7.1, some of our other numbers.
Well, we could certainly talk about that at the budget study session, and if the board wanted to provide some direction in that regard, we could certainly work towards that.
Would we make a policy that we would want it at 17%, or what would be the most helpful for you?
Well, again, like Dr. Smith has said, that, you do one thing here means you're going to have to do another thing over here. Mm. And so it's always this discussion about priorities and where we're at. And we try to meet the current need and balance that with the future, building enough security in. So we're always balancing those needs. There's a bit of tension there between meeting, hey, we need shade, and yet we need a budget that's going to be able to, keep us healthy in case the real estate market tanks or something like that. So we're happy to talk about that and where you'd want us to be.
Okay, thank you so much.
I think what we have to be careful of, if there's board direction on it through resolution or conversation, that's one thing. Putting into board's policy is a bit dangerous because you could be in violation of your own policy.
Right.
If you say it's not going to go below 17 ever and we have an economic crisis and, if 80% of our dollars are tied up in people and those people have contracts, you're not able to get out of that quick enough. So policy is a little tougher, kind of like a budgeting goal or something like that we would memorialize in the, yeah.
Yes, or on the financial activators sheet, we can, add that one in. I was wondering what would be the best approach, because I agree. I mean, I don't think putting it in policy is best, but I don't know what are other options. So that will be good to discuss in the future. Trustee Murphy.
Sorry, Jeff. This is actually a question I forgot to ask Ada when she was here about facilities, but it can give you a way to explain how you would use leftover money. I forgot to ask about the shade structures. So is that something if we do the shade structures, we can pull out of, where are we going to pull it out of? Since we didn't budget for it.
Or do we have to wait for it?
Necessarily, right? Just as an explainer, you don't have to have the answer. But it would be great to know where we are with the shade structures, too.
We currently have a set aside for shade structures. If my memory serves me right, it's $10 million. I think we'll find that we may want to have more than that. but at least we have a start there, set, ready to roll.
Okay, good. Thank you. And so if we didn't use it all, you're saying that would roll over?
Correct.
Okay, but if we go over?
When you figure that out.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you, and I appreciate your Kierkegaard quote in our budget overview. Thank you. As always, wonderful. Next, we have 20B, approve revised rates for the use of school facilities. Oh, I'm sorry, we didn't vote. Oh, sorry, we have to vote on the approved, okay. Do I have a motion?
Yes, I move that we approve the 2022-2023 unaudited actual report.
Second. I think Dr. Ursulou.
Okay, moved by trustee Crane, seconded by trustee Ursulou. Roll call vote.
Student Board Member India Howerton,
Yes.
Trustee Anderson,
Yes.
Trustee Crane,
Yes.
Trustee Wiegand,
Yes.
Trustee Pearson,
Yes.
Trustee Murphy,
Yes.
Trustee Ursulou,
Yes.
Trustee Barto.
Yes.
Okay. Now on to 20B, approve the revised rates for the use of school facilities. Mr. Trader, Mr. Bidnick.
We have Lance Bidnick here, who is our Director of Maintenance and Operations. He has been working on our facility use fees and has a presentation for you tonight to adopt those.
Maybe. Is it on the, is it on?
Okay.
I should have set this up for you, sorry.
No, it is. All right. So, good evening, President Anderson, Board of Trustees, Dr. Smith, staff, and guests. My name is Lance Bidnick, Director of Maintenance and Operations, and I'm going to go over the use of facilities presentation and fee update. To be completely honest, last time I presented this information to you and Dr. Smith asked for a committee, I was terrified. Because how do we meet with a whole bunch of people who aren't used to paying much for our facilities and tell them that we're going to raise their rent? Excellent collaboration with all of our community and stakeholders. Here's just a quick snapshot of the various people that we've met with to talk about this. A lot of back and forth with these groups to go over how we calculate our fees, what we charge fees for, and the biggest thing that we get from them is, well, what are you spending this money on? You're taking this money from us, and then what are you spending it on? They get to see what we do, baseball field maintenance, irrigation projects, field renovation projects. They're seeing this money coming in. That really helped a lot with support for this. In this presentation, we're going to go quickly over our allocation calendar, the description of each of the programs, and how each of the groups gets classified and characterized, our priority of use for, we just have a few fields available, so we have a whole bunch of people that want to use them. And then our updated fee schedule. We are trying to mirror the city's allocation schedule. So each year the city has to, both Costa Mesa and Newport Beach, so if I say the city, I'm talking about both. We do an allocation in the fall for spring sports and then in the spring for the following fall sports. And part of this exercise that we went through was not only to update our fees and do the fee schedule, but really clarify, because there's been a lot of confusion since the last time our policy was updated, as to which category each of these user groups falls into. Based on the information that we received from our youth sports participants, and trying to mirror what the city has, we created a 4-tier structure. Our first tier here is really what we've affectionately called Gatorade and Orange Slices. These are our organizations that have an everybody plays. They're nonprofit organizations. They're completely volunteer run. They fall into our tier 1 category. And this is consistent with both cities as well. The tier 2 is more of the club teams. And then tier 3 and 4, it moves on from there for for-profits or adult sport leagues. For our prioritization, NMUSD activities are going to trump. So that includes CIF sports. Joint use agreement is ahead of school-connected organizations, only in so much as the joint use agreement would demand for that. We do work with our cities to make sure if our schools, boosters or foundations have a fundraiser or something that they want to plan, that it's not going to compete with the joint use agreement. You missed. And then it goes to our community youth sports tiers. We have several fields, and this is just something that was important to point out, where we have multi-sports. So we might have a soccer field in the middle of a couple of baseball fields. If it's soccer season, we're going to give preference to the soccer fields, not the baseball season. But youth sports are pretty much year-round activities now, so we can't say that baseball is a spring sport, because we're going to have baseball permits coming in the fall as well. This one is a little bit harder to read, but this is how we categorize each of the groups and where they fall into the tier fee structure. Group A would be anybody that is us, agreements that we have with municipal agencies, classroom-based programs, anything that's for the benefit of our pupils. No facility fees. Group B would be school-connected organizations, people that are operating during our working hours where we don't have to bring in staff on overtime. This includes like Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts. I don't see Martha Fleur. She was one of the participants and was very vocal about this. So I wanted to make sure that we memorialize this as well. As long as we're not bringing in staff to have to work this on overtime, then there would be no facility fee. And then as we move through, we're proposing to have a discounted rate for certain user groups. And these are our Gatorade and Orange Slice sports teams. Really the goal here is to promote the community activities. And then anybody, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, school-connected organizations where they're coming in and we have to bring somebody in on overtime. It's usually a big event where we need additional staff. We would propose the discounted rate for them. And then as we go up from there, the full direct cost, and I'll explain what direct cost is and how we calculate that. But these are kind of the club teams and then religious organizations. And the Ed Code is very specific that the district shall charge a fee not less than its direct cost for the conduct of church services and school properties. So that's why religious organizations are there. And then the last one is basically any for-profits or people that are trying to make money on the use of our facilities and not using it for fundraising or charitable purposes. And so that would be a fair market. And again, the Ed Code is also explicit. Anytime where there's an event that's being an admission is being charged and those proceeds aren't going back to the district or to charitable purposes, the district shall charge fair market value. Really quickly, our normal working hours are defined as Monday through Friday from 6:30 a.m. until our staff leaves at 10 p.m. And so really generous for parent groups or organizations that want to do things at our schools during our normal working hours. But this does not include like summer holidays or winter recess. Our custodians, for example, are busy doing other things, cleaning when everybody else is away. So we would be staffing these. One thing to point out here is our current structure, we have a facility fee and then we also charge a custodial servicing fee. And that's been probably the biggest point of contention with a lot of our user groups is, well, I don't have to pay a facility fee, but it's $51 an hour for the custodial fee and it's a 3-hour minimum. How we interpret that, we've kind of been a little bit generous, but that's not really consistent with how the Ed Code is requiring us to calculate fees. So we've taken those fees and we've wrapped them up into our regular base fee. So we're doing away with the 3-hour fee here. CDE has guidelines for how we determine fees. And the short story here is we take a look at what it costs to own and operate and maintain our fields, including all of our staffing, maintenance, supplies, whatever. And we weight it for how many hours are actually available for community use after the school day. And we apply that percentage to the overall cost, and then that's what we get for our fees. In this report, I also included our county averages, the direct cost that other districts in Orange County charge for similar facilities. And then one thing to note, our fees, even our updated fees, are still pretty far below the county averages. One thing that we had talked about was a phasing in of fees, so users aren't being hit with a large fee increase all at once. To mitigate that, we've introduced the discounted rate. Essentially, this would be like year one of a fee rate increase. Again, it's to promote and encourage community youth sports and people that are here to service our students. And here again, just eliminating the additional custodial servicing fee. For most of our facilities, the rates are going up, for some of them fairly dramatically. And so if you look at this first column, the dark blue there, we don't really have rates for all of our facilities currently. So that's not included, but you can see athletic or soccer fields is what that is, would be going from $9 to a direct cost of $34. This is per hour for those user groups that fall into that category. To help mitigate this drastic increase, we've offered the discounted rate of $14 an hour. And you can see down through the chart, our discounted rate is slightly higher than our current rates. But even if you compare the direct cost, that green column there, to the OC average, in just about every category we're less. And there might be a couple of differences just because the way that the facilities are set up, that it's not quite an apples to apples comparison, or how they charge for their fees. But a couple of areas to look at stadium fees and pool fees, for example. We have 50-meter pools. Most pools in Orange County are 25 meters. And so when you look at what our direct cost is there for a pool, it's a lot more than our neighbors. I don't know if I want to pause here for questions, or if you'd like me to keep going through to the end.
We don't have any questions. We have one.
You're going to offer, I'll take. So, question. On these fees, and I just want to make sure that for everyone's in the public, that we have communicated these fees with our user groups, and we've worked with them on what's going on, and just so everyone knows and so everyone's aware that we worked with them on all of this, so just, I guess that's one question, is that, we do have their I guess, sign off on this.
Yes, some even more so than others, because the pool, if we went from $44 to $207, our families in Costa Mesa that participate in Costa Mesa Aquatics Club would not be able to participate.
Yeah.
And so there were some more direct negotiations with the larger groups. Costa Mesa United was invaluable through this. They provided a great resource to a lot of organizations that represent sports teams, not only in Newport Beach, but also not just Costa Mesa, but also Newport Beach. We've also shared this with a lot of the participants that are early contributors to this, and there hasn't been any question or pushback on the fees. I think the biggest thing that we have to do is, if we are asking for additional fees, then we are also committing to spending those fees on our facilities. The other is, we have a joint use agreement with the city of Costa Mesa that's very generous for our Costa Mesa youth sports teams. Most of them would not be impacted by this because they'd be covered under the joint use agreement.
Okay, that makes sense. For the discounted direct cost, since we're giving that discount direct cost for this year, is there like a tiered up schedule, for instance? Like in 5 years, we'll go to whatever the direct cost will be, or do we increase it by 10% a year? Or what are we thinking for that?
So as far as because this is the first year since 2006 that these fees have been updated, and we don't have a lot of experience in a lot of these facilities. You can see all the dark blue ones. We don't know what this is going to be. So we don't know what the additional wear and tear is going to be, if there's additional costs for maintenance and upkeep, and that we've also eliminated the custodial servicing fee. So what we'd like to do really is, let's proceed with the rates in the current year, and then we can do another fee study to see how did this work for this year. And then we can come back with another analysis, and then moving forward, so we don't have to keep coming back each year for approval of the rate increase, then we could decide or recommend what an escalation would look like.
Okay. And then does that also include the custodial services, as I think it says, except as needed for large events or damage resulting from negligent use of facilities? So, we're waiving that 3-hour minimum, but, if we see that there was a reason we put that 3-hour minimum in initially.
This is more intended to be for large events. One that comes to mind is the annual Kaiser Carnival, and there's a lot of people that attend that. We usually have 3 custodians that work that at the overtime rate, and so that's not really calculated into the hourly fee.
Okay.
So if we have an exceptionally large event and we know that there's going to be a lot of participants, we might want to add a couple more staff, and we would communicate that with the user groups when they're submitting their permits.
Okay. And if we see user groups are not taking care of our facilities the way that they should, then we have clauses saying you have to then have the 3-hour minimum or pay whatever they need to.
We actually have a 3-strike
Okay.
discipline process, but we can also charge them if we need to come and fix or repair or clean something that was due to their negligence. We do have the right to charge them for that as well.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Okay.
Trustee Ursulou.
Hi, thank you so much. So back to what you were saying about CMAC. So are they technically a tier 1? Because they really
I'm not quite sure how to
could
answer
be,
that.
but the definition of tier 1 is really biased toward like ground on land sports. It's hard to fit into tier 1. There are no umpires and referee, like.
As long as they're not paying coaches.
Mhm.
And so like a lot of club teams, for example, they'll pay coaches to boost and elevate the players. Or the biggest one is they have selective play. And so you have to perform at a certain level to be able to participate in the team. And those are not the tier 1 groups.
But I think because CMAC is such a comprehensive organization, it has the lessons. So much of that is instructors. They're not really coaches. Like for the younger kids, so much of it is lessons, and it is letting, the minimum play rule, like some of these rules, like these definitions just don't apply to swim and the structure of CMAC. So
there will have to be some flexibility, but it's also the nature of CMAC's events are not always consistent either. And so a lot of that would be looking at it on a permit by permit basis, just to understand what they are doing.
Okay.
And then applying what we can try to do with a very broad brushstroke.
Okay.
In classifying them, because they are very prolific in Costa Mesa as well.
Yeah.
A lot of participants that attend our schools.
So you're saying right now they'll move to the 60 and not to the 207? Is that right?
I believe so.
Okay.
I can confirm that, but yeah, that's what we had intended with that.
Oh, good. Okay. Thank you. That's helpful.
I have a follow-up to that. So would they be considered, though, under like a district feeder program or not officially?
So I'll come back to that at the end. So clarifying what a feeder program is and kind of some of the background on why that was established.
Trustee Murphy.
Kaiser Field, yep, that's gonna come up. So, so the way I'm reading this, you're saying that they would be a Group B, right?
I'm sorry for.
Because it's a PFO-sponsored event. The Kaiser
Carnival.
The carnival, yeah. That use the Kaiser Fields. So it's the PFO, you're saying it's a Group B, no fees. But then, when you flip over to the proposed facility use fee, so then it's saying $9 for an athletic field. So it's all on the athletic fields. So are they gonna get charged $9 an hour or just $9 period?
$9 an hour plus if we need extra custodial, then we charge just for the extra custodial versus what they're paying now is they are reimbursing us for our custodial fees.
We have been reimbursing you for them?
I believe so.
I think there's gonna be some people who think that we're not. Okay, but it's only $9 for, so if they're there the whole day, $72.
$72.
And then 3 custodians at overtime.
Whatever additional custodians.
That can be where some of the PFO money goes. Always trying to find a use.
Oh, I mean, people will have questions.
We're ready for the next slide. We don't have any additional questions at this
Then
moment.
There's a lot of, nothing fits the puzzle perfectly. And so we have a lot of special events, and tournaments are one of those. And so one of the things that we've really been trying to get a handle on this, because we have a lot of folks outside of our district that want to use our facilities for tournaments. And tournaments can be huge money makers, and it's a lot of wear and tear on our field when it's not even our students that are using them. And so we looked at how do we want to classify tournaments, and we have district-sponsored tournaments where our booster might want to do a volleyball or basketball tournament on our facilities, and it's a fundraising event for them. So we wanted to create a mechanism that we can support them so they can do the fundraising for their schools. And then there's district-hosted, where it's somebody else is getting the checks from our families, and there's not really anything coming back to the schools. And we called those district-hosted, where we're just the host of somebody else's profit-making machine. And so we just wanted to really differentiate that, because the biggest push was really to identify what the district-sponsored tournament is, so we can support our boosters and support our teams in their fundraising efforts. So this is just an example of the many different things that don't quite fit into the program very neatly. And then the district feeder program. So the concept of a feeder program came about 2 years ago, and it was really focused in discussions around the athletic turf field at Corona Del Mar. When that field was being built, the neighbors, they protested the field's construction, and we had to abide by certain limitations. So we had to agree that the field would not be used by outside athletic organizations, for example. The difficulty with that, especially at CDM, is we have a middle school campus on the high school campus. And a lot of those students that are at the middle school want to feed into the high school athletic programs. The hard stance of thou shalt not play if thou aren't in CDM high school sports wasn't really fitting well with what we were trying to do to encourage young athletes to participate in our programs. Interim Superintendent Hank Bangser negotiated with the principal at the school at the time, with the community, and we were able to identify feeder programs. That these are essentially our students, our kids coming into our schools, and that this really fits the intent of the board policy. They agreed, but this is only to grant access to our artificial turf fields. So prior to this, no outside use was permitted on our artificial turf fields. With the creation of a feeder program, it expands the definition of what our NMUSD high school athletics program is to include the younger students, so they could play on our fields. Really, the intent is so that they have a good place to go, quality fields, and they get excited playing on the artificial turf in a stadium, or what they would be experiencing at the high school level. But this does not do anything as far as waiving fees. A feeder program for an athletics program doesn't really apply, because per our feeder program language, it only grants access to artificial turf fields. And even in our board policy, it's defined as a program that's 80% resident non-adults, but that the fees are based on what our tiered structure would be. Because a lot of these feeder programs are still community sports organizations. And so we would have to be really careful designating a soccer feeder that's AYSO when AYSO is really a tier 1 community youth sports team. So really trying to keep that from being a slippery slope.
These are all tricky, and I know you spent a lot of time on this and having a lot of those negotiations, so thank you. We have an additional question from Trustee Ursulou.
Yes, sorry. I don't envy you, Lance, I'm sorry. I'll apologize up front. So again, I think it's the way that it's written, like when I was reading it earlier, the stuff that gets you into tier 1, it's all about, the way it's written is really like players, gives players equal time. So like, can we just change the terminology in that column to be like athletes? Because it just excludes swimmers like up front, like it just really is talking about land sports, like in all these kind of iterations. And like the feeder program, it's dealing with the artificial turf, and that's the policy. And maybe there's an opportunity to revise the policy, because CMAC legitimately is a feeder for the Mesa and the Estancia swimmers, and especially like water polo. Like they give free water polo for a week to get kids excited about water polo so that they'll go play at Estancia. So like that is like the definition of a community benefit. So I just want to be sure that they can always stay in tier 1, and what we need to do to keep them there, because if they were to be in tier 2, like that boosts them up to that, $200, and it just seems prohibitive for their operations.
Yeah, no, the intent specifically with the fee for the pool use, because CMAC is such a heavy user of our pools, was that they would be a tier 1 group.
Okay.
So.
Awesome. Thank you.
And Trustee Anderson, if I can make a comment, as you run into constituents, it may be obvious to us, but maybe it's not obvious to them, but all of these fees are segregated and they go right back into the facilities that these folks are using.
Right, do we have any additional questions? We do leave that discussion about player versus athlete. That is a good one. All right. Thank you. This was wonderful. All right, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Who seconded? Okay, moved by trustee Weigand, seconded by trustee Ursulou. Roll call vote?
Student Board Member India Howerton.
Yes.
Trustee Anderson.
Yes.
Trustee Crane.
Yes.
Trustee Weigand.
Yes.
Trustee Pearson.
Yes.
Trustee Murphy.
Yes, and thanks, Lance.
Trustee Ursulou.
Yes.
Trustee Barto.
Yes.
And next, we have our resolution adoption calendar. Item 21A, adopt resolution number 060923, authorizing the formation of a surplus property advisory committee, a 7-Eleven committee, pursuant to Education Code 17387. Mr. Trader.
We have a resolution for you about creating a committee that could dispose of surplus property. And so tonight we have Andreas Schultes with us. He's an attorney who has expertise in this area. And so if you have any questions for him, he's happy to kind of roll through what this committee means and what it would do.
Hello, thank you for waiting.
Yes.
You've been here since
3
6
hours.
on the dot.
My pleasure. Good evening, President Anderson, trustees, Superintendent Smith, and Cabinet. Yes, if you were to approve this resolution, this would authorize the formation of a Surplus Property Advisory Committee, also known as a 7-Eleven Committee. You may have heard that many times, 7-Eleven Committee. It's just a small initial process, I shouldn't say small, but the first of a lot longer process for disposition or development of property. So should you in the future choose to make a decision about moving forward with disposition or development of a property through sale, through ground lease, et cetera, you would need to have this necessary function, which is the advisory committee, convened in the beginning. It's 7 to 11 members. That's why we call it a 7-Eleven committee. The Ed Code, and you can see in that resolution, it's a little unwieldy. The Ed Code actually enumerates what categories of individuals you need to have there. There are 7 categories. We always recommend as a best practice that you have 11 members. Sometimes folks can't attend. And then more importantly, sometimes you have 1 or 2 drop off before you actually have a final report. So we like to have 11 if at all possible. And I should note that the general duties of this committee is to hear a lot of information about what surplus property may be, what the district's options are with respect to moving forward with properties. Really look, though, at student generation rates and really just population and growth. And I just heard a little bit about even tonight where you're at with all of that. And make a recommendation to the board ultimately. First, they're going to let the community know what they think may be appropriate, what they think the community would say. This committee in and of itself is a cross-section of a community. So they're going to make a recommendation. It's going to be publicized, and it's going to be what we call a priority use list is actually circulated. And then through public meetings, folks can come forward to that committee, give their 2 cents worth and be heard, and ultimately a recommendation will be made back to this board. So while it's a necessary function to have a committee, so it's actually mandated if you're going to move forward with disposition or development, you don't have to in whole cloth take the recommendation from a committee. You get to hear the information that you receive in a report. The report will detail anybody who's come and who has spoken to any issue, give you a sense of what the community has to say about a particular property, and then you ultimately can make your own determination as to whether or not you want to move forward. So the ball remains in your court at all times, but again, this is a necessary component. The other part of this resolution is a delegation of authority to the superintendent to select the committee members. That's a best practice. It's unwieldy to do it in any other way. I've been doing this for 20-something years. So it's a best practice that we have the superintendent reach out to interested parties and constituents that may have already been interested or in the past have been interested in similar types of issues or types of committees. And even if we so choose, if the superintendent so chooses, follow an application process, which is fairly simple, sounds a little more than it is, just a page or two to allow people to come forward, exercise their interest, if you will, put it down in writing, and then we will look at that information and make sure that we're hitting all 7 of the enumerated categories to be sure that your committee, once comprised, is the type of committee that would be fulfilling the duties of the Ed Code so they can give you a report ultimately on the back end. There's a lot of little extra things that we have in reports and ask committees to look at, all best practices, and we can get into that in future meetings. And really, when information is being presented to you in the future after multiple committee meetings are had, it's then appropriate to discuss tons of options, because we can go on and take up all the time you spent today just on property. Any particular questions of the resolution?
Trustee Crane.
Yes. First, thank you for your time.
Sure.
I have a question in regards to the committee makeup. Does it, and it has to do with geography and the qualifications of a member, because we straddle 2 cities, let's say that the property we're looking at is in one particular city, do the members of the 7-Eleven committee have to be residents of that city, or can it straddle both cities that represent our district?
Yeah, it is actually district-wide when we look at membership. We have a lot of opinions, and they are written, and we don't have to, recalculate, if you will, and look at all this as we go on any particular issue. Sometimes when we receive back applications or interest, and we look to see who that individual is, there may be a few, not red flags, but question marks by that as to will it fit, and we go through sort of a checklist to make sure it's appropriate. But yes, in general, you're going to be looking district-wide, not citywide. There's one caveat to that. There's one, it's actually the last enumerated one, where it talks about needing an individual that has a level of sophistication or knowledge, if you will, of zoning and land use and whatnot. Arguably, that could be from either city, but I would argue that it would be appropriate to have somebody within this particular city. Here, if we're talking Banning Ranch property, it would be the city of Newport that would have that. And often that is somebody who is a actual city employee or past employee or a retired employee, and it could be other, but we do want somebody that has that knowledge base. And it's helpful to have sort of the inside look at a particular city where the property resides, because it's that city and that planning commission and city council in particular who will be reviewing any developer moving forward if this property is to be developed in the future.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Do we have any other questions? Okay. I had a question where it talks about, because I know this is standard Ed Code language. Is there a way, or is it possible to have where D, E, and F are district related? So district teachers, district administrators, parents of district students?
Yes.
Is that kind of what the assumption is because it talks about the composition of the district, or would it be important for us to specify that?
It's a
Are we
good-
allowed
it's a
to
great question.
specify that?
It's funny, like I said, I've been doing this for a very long time, a lot of committees, a lot of dispositions of property and whatnot, and I've never had that question asked of me. So absolutely, it is district. That is the intent. That's the intent of the code. This literally gets lifted right out of the ed code and put in these resolutions. So it's a great question. I think it's an advantageous change to just make sure that we're clarifying district in any of those. That'd be just fine. Or you could simply provide direction to make sure that when the superintendent is going through the process to select, we understand the caveat is that it's district parents, district administrators, district teachers. Yeah.
Which one would be the best
I
legally?
think direction would be adequate.
Oh, okay.
I really do.
Okay.
If you're more comfortable having that in writing, it would be an amendment to the resolution, and you can make that motion as well.
Okay. Trustee Ursulou.
I think along what you were just discussing, previously you said the person with land use planning should be from the city. So my concern is that land use planning is lumped in under G with persons with expertise in environmental impact, legal, building codes, and land use planning. So would it be possible to have an amendment to this where there are 2 seats, 2G, I guess, one that is a more environmental and one that is the land use person from that particular city?
Sure. I think that perhaps the easiest way to go about that is knowing that, again, this is from the ed code, and we want to be able to point to a document and say we complied with all 7 categories straight from the education code, is that the good news is there's only 7 enumerated criteria, right? So rather than making it 8, which would happen if we were to bifurcate those 2, we could simply say among the 7 categories, 2 categories for G could comprise in the committee. So you're going to have 11 members. 4 have to be duplicated. So if you think about that, there are 7 that you're going to have one-offs, and then you're going to have 4 more that have 2. So you could certainly have 2 that satisfy G, and we could separate it that way, if you will, making sure that while it fits the category G as drafted, we'll have 1 that has expertise in the land use and 1 that has expertise in environment. And again, that could be a verbal motion if you like, or we can look to amend. But with a verbal motion, we would know that as we're seating or placing through the selection process, we know that we're going to weight 2 Gs into the 11 that we're looking to say. Because again, it really is a best practice, smart move to have 11 and not just 7. And we would accomplish, I think, what you're looking for in that manner. We have 2.
Do we review that, though, based on who applies? So I feel like it's a little tricky for us to make the motion now,
Sure.
because we could have 2 teachers who apply, but 6 people who apply under G, and we could have 2 of those that
Sure.
are environmental, 1 building code, 1 land. So it's, I feel like it kind of puts us into a box if we're making a motion, but we don't know who's applying.
If you make no other direction known, and if it's simply just passing the resolution, that delegation of authority does go to the superintendent to fit those categories. We know that all 7 have to be fit within the 11 members, but the delegation would allow for again, without any further direction, would allow for the superintendent to place the other 4 slots through the selection process and application process if we go that route, and select those other 4. If you want to give more direction to say, however, we want to make sure that there are 2 Gs in the 11, you can have that. That, though, takes away from the duplication, if you will, on the other criteria. Now, it gets a little more convoluted because, as you can imagine, there are many people here that could wear 2 or more hats in this scenario. It wouldn't be impossible at all to have a parent that is a district parent that also has that knowledge that we were talking about, or could be a landowner or business owner or administrator who happens to be a parent and the like. There, we just want to make sure that we can categorize them as 1. And in our report, the best approach in my mind is to make sure that we have 1 identified for each of these categories, and then 2 identified for 4 more of the categories, and not just put landowner / parent / administrator. That's unwieldy, and I want to make sure we can show that we have it. But again, to clarify, you're going to have people with expertise that are in the room who perhaps are saying, I am the parent person or the teacher person here at the district on this committee who has other knowledges, and other criteria are met by that person. So you're going to get an overlap or duplication of effort, if you will, or of knowledge, which is a good thing as well. Just really comes down to how formalized you want to give the direction on that delegation component.
Okay. So, well,
Follow up.
Sorry.
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of questions related to that to me that come to mind, just because we've had some committees that have gone on for quite some time, and we have so many surplus properties. And so, like, do we then also, attach, are we allowed to, are we supposed to, are we not advised to have, like, term limits or attendance? Like, if somebody misses 3 of these meetings, do we then move on to someone else? Do we have substitutes? Do we, like, if we get less than 7, do we have, like, a waiting list? There's a lot of those kind of questions.
Sure, yeah, the process of it. So at the last part of the resolution, it talks about that delegation of authority to the superintendent to convene and follow a process to get the solution, right, to get the results of the committee, get the committee convened, have them meet, have them get a report. If there's a member or more than one member who isn't showing up, we could always come back to you to say, you know what, we selected through the delegation of authority being provided tonight, if you so choose to approve this. We have the committee. We then had it ratified at a subsequent board meeting by the board, so you know who's on the committee. And then 2-3 months down the road, there may be an opportunity, or maybe the need, I should say, to come back to say, yeah, we need to substitute a couple of people out. We've actually done that before, not for often a health reason, or somebody wants to move and isn't going to be available any longer, things like that. But over the years, it certainly has happened where we substitute somebody out. I haven't had a situation where we have substitute or folks kind of in the wings, you know, like a jury pool where you have a couple of extra. We haven't done that per se. We've only asked those that are actually on the committee to attend the meetings.
So then under like section 6, we could perhaps add in yearly, or if the Board of Education will review and ratify the proposed members of the advisory at a future board meeting and yearly. Or I'm just, like, if this takes 4 years,
Sure.
there's lots of changes in committees that we've had in the past, and so but so it goes to the superintendent to then, would he put out an application again? I mean, there's just like those kind of questions.
This could certainly be more streamlined than some of the committees have had in something that's 4 years in nature. I've had surplus property committees go on many months, 6-7 months down the road, multiple meetings, 8-9 meetings where you have a lot of people in the community coming forward and speaking. I've had many others where there's very few, especially where there's vacant land and it's not such a closure of school and repurposing of an elementary school site, et cetera. Often where it's just land that has never been utilized and the like, there isn't as much input. You still very well might have some, but typically you get that done in approximately 4 meetings, 3 to 4 months. And of course, at any point, if this board wanted to say we want to add on other properties and other things to look at, it could take on a life of its own, and you can come back and make changes to the committee as you go. But it would be a restart of a committee to be looking at, say, one property, get through 3 or 4 meetings, and then have 2 more add on. You'd have to kind of go back in time and start that again. So it's obviously we can handle whatever the board would wish to do, and it's fluid in that sense. But in terms of expediting, or it's the wrong word, but streamlining a process, it's better to know what you would really want the committee to focus on, and they should be bringing you back a report within months, not years.
Right.
I agree then with Trustee Ursulou about having a few different qualifiers for G. I think some of the others, there are some that people could fill some of those in multiple categories, but I agree that it's important to have people who may have different views but fall in G, or different experiences.
But so, Madam President, can I keep talking? My concern about G is I don't actually want 2 G seats. I really want environmental and/or public health person called out as like one element, and then the rest of G, the legal, building, land use planning, like that's a different thing, like because a lot of these developments are going to involve like active transportation and the ability of people to access these new developments or whatever it's going to look like. So I want there to be ensure that there's 1 seat for environmental, and G doesn't ensure that it's environmental because it has all these other options. You could be legal, building, land use. So is that a matter of adding a B, C, D, F, G, H? And can we add an H that is explicitly environmental?
Again, I really do think the safer route is to stay within the education code language, which are these 7 enumerated sections. In G, I think it's very reasonable to read. One, that has an element of that, and then two, that has the remainder of the element of that. So while it's two, I do understand it's two totally different functions, two knowledge sets, skill sets, and that would be appropriate. We would just identify through direction that we want to make sure that the people who are categorized in G are what you need or what you're asking for. If the board wants the two bifurcated and enumerated better than this, I think that's appropriate, but to come in with an H, you know, it's not the end of the world. I just wouldn't want, we can get into the weeds on some of this, but for example.
No, my concern is, you know, leadership changes. And so 4 years from now, 7 years from now,
Yeah.
the definition of G could leave it open to someone that's like, oh, we'll have two building codes people and a legal person, and no environmental view would be anywhere represented.
I appreciate it very much. If you can allow me to segue just a quick little moment, I'll explain why there's any reservation, because I think it's reasonable, certainly. My concern is there are things here, for example, let's say you wanted to have the site developed and enter into a long-term ground lease, for example. In that, when we're talking to this advisory committee, we would inform them that a better way to go in that long-term ground lease wouldn't be just to get into an auction scenario, but rather what we call a waiver, a surplus property waiver from the State Board of Education. It's streamlined approach to be able to go out with a request for proposals rather than an auction scenario and negotiate with the best user rather than just the highest bidder who may or may not get it over the finish line. Okay? In that, the committee would be explain that waiver, and we would ask the advisory committee to check a box saying that should the board choose to go forward with that type of a ground lease, that they would recommend that you go forward with a waiver from the State Board of Ed versus the traditional bid. Okay? That's something they check off because the State Board of Ed wants to see your process. They are sticklers for process, and they do everything they can to slow down the waiver request on the property front. So the waiver office will say, tell me about your committee. How was it convened? When did it meet? What did they say about waiver? All of those things. So I'm just trying to minimize the potential in the future for a red flag of somebody saying you broke from the ed code. So,
But the ed
yeah.
code requires us to have these mandatory elements A through G,
Yeah,
right?
sure.
But it doesn't preclude us from adding an H, right, or another one.
Andres, is there maybe a better way to do that then, so you don't change the language, enumerated in ed code?
Yeah.
Is have a motion to approve the resolution and direction that one of the participants must be whatever it is. Then you haven't changed the ed code, and you've given the superintendent direction.
That's correct.
That it must include one. And then if it's the will of the board through a vote, then that's
Yes.
where we land. That's the public direction
I think
given.
that's exactly right. I would keep the resolution written document more typical, if you will, and then provide direction for that extra nuance. Again, even including the number of categories that are duplicated. If you have, besides just G that you want to make sure has an extra element to it, if you wanted 2 teachers versus 2 administrators, or, you know, 2 parents versus, that could be something that you could even provide direction on. Or you can allow this to be the sole extra direction regarding the selection.
Well, because in my mind, I mean, teachers and educators are, teachers, it could just say educators, right? Like teachers and administrators, we have both in the room. Like, they're very similar. So to me, like, a person could consider, well, that could be conjoined, but then G would be bifurcated. So I think, I understand the 7, it's not just 7 and 11 members, it's 7 are the enumerated categories. Are we also, does this mean the or land use restriction of the cities or cities and counties? Because then I think we need a comma there because it looks like it's a typo, because it looks like of the cities or the cities.
I'm afraid, again, that's just ed code. I don't think
Yeah.
that there's a comma there in code, but we could add one. That wouldn't bother me if we added a comma for the legislators who didn't get it right.
To our former trustee Matoye back there.
No,
Thomas.
trust me when I tell you. What would be perfect is if we could streamline even more so and make it very specific to any one district's needs. I think you can get through a committee process. I'm a little reluctant, as you've heard, to do that by way of resolution. By some direction, feel free, but if you wanted, we could continue to wordsmith a little bit and cross our fingers. My biggest concern in thinking in real time here on the fly would be really the waiver office. That's the one who would be the most likely to read and reread and underscore and really take a look. So,
Okay. Trustee Crane.
Thank you. Am I hearing correctly that the concern is that this committee may be a multi-year committee? But my understanding is this is a very limited scope committee when it comes to a timeline, because it's basically, the life of this committee is a few months.
Yeah.
Right?
That's
And then
exactly
it
right.
dissolves.
That's
And
exactly right. So
the concern of like the leadership change, that's probably not a concern.
Let's hope. There's no timeline, right?
We don't know. We don't know that
But I'm saying,
necessarily. There's no end.
and then secondly, I do like the looser language, because then otherwise we're putting ourselves in a box. And I think it's a matter of just trusting the direction that we are going to, send to our superintendent, who's going to be the one that's going to run with it. So I like the loose language, especially since you are advising us that way, and you're one of our esteemed counselors, and also the fact that you've had experience with this for a few decades.
And to clarify the duration issue, we don't put a time limit on it. If the committee said, I need another meeting to have another conversation or ask for more information, it could continue on. But it's such that the duties that are described by code typically can be done in a matter of months, not years. But it's not impossible that a committee would want to spend more time. Yeah.
Okay.
Trustee Wiggett.
Since I think we're talking about, I think we kind of all agree about certain things, I wanted to propose a direction and call for the vote. The direction would be to direct the superintendent to have have one environmentalist and one land use person. So this would be a direction. And then also direct the superintendent to where we talk about teachers, administrators, and parents and students, we need to say the district, parents of students in the district, administrators of the district, teachers in the district. So direct the superintendent to say that to pick district administrators, parents, and teachers. And also, if for the end date, direct a superintendent to have this within. I know you say you don't direct a date. It sounds like there's some
A reasonable timeline.
yeah, with it, can we say a reasonable timeline within the year or something like that, within a 9-month time frame, or I don't know what it is, but I'm just saying that, it sounds like, we're we like this, but we just need a couple direction to make it clear to all of us of what we want to direct the superintendent to do.
I second the call to the question, with the enumerated direction.
I think you said you were willing to call the question, but, yeah.
Thank you, Siri.
That's so weird.
I thought, just so we're clear, because we're being videoed, I thought you were saying you're willing to, but you had some clarification.
I wanted to clarify on the time frame at the end, for that direction.
I might just add that because you said it's intended to be within district, I think it's clear that even without that middle part, we understand. So
Okay.
it'd save you saying a bunch of things
Okay.
about someone from the district. I think the important one for clarification that we've identified, one is about G including an environmental. If there is also land use, that would be important to say. And then the expedition part, that's new, but that would be interesting as well. But I think we assume it's supposed to be in district. I think that's what Ed Code intends.
Okay.
So I think we could save you having to add that if you made the motion.
Okay.
Yeah?
And yes, that's correct. And one other thought would be on that last point regarding duration. It could simply also be, and direction is being provided that there will be an update regarding how things are coming along with this committee.
And
In
I
other
can
words,
put
you
a
can have that
date.
from staff.
Like it's part of 8, where it talks about the resolution shall be valid until later rescinded by the board.
I was thinking more in lines of 7, where there's a delegation to perform and have the duties of the committee spelled out. We could, again, I don't think we have to amend the resolution. If you just wanted to say we're approving the resolution, but we're asking for there to be an update so that we understand through the selection process you've ratified, but then beyond that, you're going to be able to say, and we would like an update in X amount of months, whatever that might be, as to how the committee process has begun and how it's coming along. Staff can bring that back to you literally at any point. If you just made your wishes known and you told us tonight that you'd want an update and you didn't want this to go a year without hearing back from us, we would make sure that happens.
Okay, so I think I would like to make a motion to approve this with the direction to the superintendent to direct the district on G to say that we need to bifurcate those persons with one environmental person and then one with land use planning knowledge. And then also direct the superintendent that in 7, I believe it is, that we would like a report back to us in 3 months on where we are with the committee and if the committee has made any recommendations. So I would think that in a month, and why I say 3 months, because maybe it takes a month to get the committee together, they have a meeting or two, and then come back with who that is. However, now that yes, come back within 3 months with a direction to, with an update. Let's just say an update.
Second.
I would like to make a friendly amendment. I disagree about not including, I disagree about the district teacher, administrators, and parents. I think, I don't think that it's clear that that is the case, and because of our current community, I think it's really clear that it is spelled out in here. I think even if the intent of Ed Code is the intent, it doesn't mean it's clear, and I think it's an important factor for our community.
So is that a motion? Amendment?
You already have a motion and a second on the
In
floor.
a second, so you'd have to let it die.
Right.
Yeah. You can vote.
Trustee Anderson?
No.
Trustee Crane?
Yes.
No, we're not, we're letting it die.
Well, do we want to?
Well,
let it
but
die? I don't want it to die.
I don't know if
I
everyone
kinda
wants to
like
let
it.
it die.
Without district?
Because it's
'Cause
just
it's
direction
assumed.
to the superintendent.
So I'm
We're
a-
not amending the language.
Yeah, I'm a yes.
It's inferred.
To me,
Well,
well, let's have more conversation about that if we're not ready, because I don't know exactly where we are on G, absolutely.
we have a motion on the floor.
I have a
But
motion
we
on the
haven't
floor.
had-
Can we vote on that motion that's available on the floor?
This is
We
what I
have
was
to.
worried about, Carol, you're not listening.
No, but we have to. This is like
Yeah,
the
but
Robert's rule of law, of the meeting. A motion was made, seconded. And before I start voting, we can't stop and discuss.
Well,
You can have a
That's-
discussion after you, the first and a second, you can have discussion, and then you can call for the vote.
yes.
We called for the vote, but pause that, I suspect, and you could have discussion. It does allow for after a first and a second, a
Yes.
discussion. But anyway, but there is a first and second, there is.
That are on the
a
table.
motion on the table.
Yes. So I just want to make sure that we're clear before we vote, that we are all on the same page. So for me, I think district is important. Does G clarify for you? Is that enough, Leah, Trustee Ursulu, that?
Yeah, the way Trustee Wygand explained it, that there's a reserved one that's definitely an environmental representative of some kind, and then the second one can be one of those other 3 options. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, it is odd, to your point, like in A, it does mention the district, but then in those other ones that you're concerned about, administrator, parent, teachers, it doesn't say a district, so that is
But I
odd,
think-
so it should be probably specified in the directive.
And I think that if it weren't directed to the superintendent in public, who knows we want to pick from the district, like, I would have concerns, but Wes is here.
Yeah, I just want to make sure, because that was your initial, motion was to include
But then-
district.
but
and
then
so- and you heard
They
from him,
explained
but
that.
I-
Yeah, the explanation.
It's implied.
The explanation covered what I was going to have, so that made sense to me.
Okay.
You want to call the motion again to that? And not call the motion with the votes, if you voted no.
Yes, we'll vote again, yes. So I will vote yes, if it directed that is included the district piece, yes.
So Trustee Anderson?
Yes.
Trustee Crane?
Yes.
Trustee Wygand?
Yes.
Trustee Pearson?
Yes.
Trustee Murphy?
Yep.
Trustee Ursulou?
Yes.
Trustee Barto?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks
Thank
for waiting.
you.
You bet. Take care.
But you love board meetings, right?
I was going to say, but I
You should have led with that.
thought about it. Yeah, shoot, I thought about it. Take care.
Thank you. And next is 21B, adopt resolution number 050923, GAN limit for 2022-23, an estimated GAN limit for 2023 and 24. Mr. Trader.
This is a fairly perfunctory thing that we do. It has to do with Proposition 4, and we've done all the calculations and documented that everything is applicable to statutory law and constitutional law, and as we close the books in 22-23, it's now apparent that the district's total appropriations from local sources do not exceed the GAN limit.
Okay, do we have any questions?
Sounds good.
No? Who would like to make a motion?
So moved?
Second.
Okay, moved by trustee Crane, seconded by trustee Wygand. Roll call vote?
Trustee Anderson?
Yes?
Trustee Crane?
Yes.
Trustee Wygand?
Yes.
Trustee Pearson?
Yes.
Trustee Murphy?
Yes.
Trustee Ursulou?
Yes.
Trustee Barto?
Yes.
And next, we have Dr. Smith, informal reports.
Yeah, I want to focus tonight on thank yous. I want to thank our certificate classified leadership for back-to-school nights. Was able to attend many of them. Also, I want to compliment our district leadership. For the first time, as I'm told, it was the expectation that directors, coordinators, folks were at back-to-school nights, and it was visible to the people on campus. So thank you. Thank you to our employees. Also, last Friday, no fault of ours, power went out at Estancia. We had crews there working their tails off all day, all night, getting that school ready. The teachers at Estancia helped. The classified staff helped direct students, make sure they were safe when they couldn't go into classrooms. Right? A huge thank you to everybody publicly for that. And then two really big thank yous tonight. I didn't know this was one of the benefits of accepting this job. I do now. I get to celebrate people that have the heart and the passion to stay in this district for a long time in leadership. Tonight I want to recognize Kurt Sir and Jeff Trader for 25 years in the district. Wow. And I have these very, very beautiful pins for you. So I'm going to give them these pins and thank them.
Do you want to do it?
They're being pinned.
So we
They're
have
being
it
pinned.
as part of the meeting?
Annette. Cute. Thank you.
Aw.
Congratulations. Oh, yeah, I think that's a great idea. I think we should do a picture. We should.
Yeah. You want to do it now or?
Annette, wait, yeah. Up there with their gray suits and their coordinating ties.
Yeah.
What's up with the gray suits?
They got the memo.
Oh, yeah.
I can get you folks to switch just this way. Awesome.
I know.
Lean back some notes.
Photo bomb. Photo bomb.
Can you back up like maybe? Congratulations.
Thank you. And we will start at the end of the dais tonight. Dr. Ursulou, board member reports.
I have nothing to report.
It's getting late, so I'm going to abridge my report to one thing. I toured Ensign as a board member, not as a parent, and was really excited to see, and a lot of people that were there observing that day, it was just coincidental, their co-teaching model for bilingual education. It was so cool. There were so many students who were brand new English learners in one English class. The participation was great. The way they called out students who weren't participating because they were lost and were trying to find pages. There were, I think, let's say, I guess it was two teachers in that room because the rest were observers, but two teachers in that room, and they caught every single, out of the 40 students in that classroom, every student was participating within 2 minutes, and knowing that it's a blended English language learners, regular general ed classroom, and watching that participation, you would have never known. And it was just remarkable to see everyone being engaged and everyone participating. So that's my one share for tonight.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll keep it brief too, since it's late. I will just say that my experience with the state is follow the state rules and you do better. So, on Kaiser, I got the opportunity to go to Kaiser's back to school night, first flag deck, and got to be introduced to Mr. B, who, thank you, did a great job. He was clearly super engaged and excited to be at Kaiser. The parents and the families were super excited and engaged to have him. So he was already talking about some good changes he's made over at Kaiser that sounded like the families were really appreciative of. So thank you for that selection. I appreciate that. Happy Kaiser families is great. Big fees on Kaiser Field's not so good, but you know, poor Lance. And Sonora, I got to go visit Sonora, spend the day morning with Principal George. She's amazing. They're doing such great stuff, such great work over at Sonora, the early grade reading, the early literacy, the support teachers, just doing an amazing job over there. She told me a couple times that the counselors have made a huge difference over at Sonora. They're really helping with some of the kids that are still having some behaviors, you know, coming out of COVID, and it's a great help to the teachers and to all of the staff. So I know, Jeff, that makes you nervous, but they're very, very appreciated. Yeah, there's just a lot to be said. I know we've got our foot on our pedal to the metal or whatever, but visiting the sites and hearing the feedback from teachers and principals about how much they appreciate the extra support, the extra resources, the attention to detail and to excellence and to learning is just great to hear. So thank you, you guys, for everything you're doing. And then one quick update, I did get to meet the Assistant Superintendent for OCDE, Ramon Martinez. Yes, he's a lovely gentleman, and he's filling in for Al and doing a great job. And they're starting the task force on student homelessness shortly. So got to talk to them a little bit about that, and I'm excited to hear about what's going to come out of the task force addressing student homelessness, which is going to be hopefully some good work. So that's it.
I had an exciting month. I got to start off by going to the Anderson's Dean's Dinner, which was very nice. It's a group of fathers rallying the Anderson community to do better for their school, and they do an amazing job. I got to go to Neon Night for CDM football game. And most importantly were the back-to-school nights. Being new, I didn't realize how important it was, but to be able to get in and hear the teachers talk about the curriculum and how they're loving the curriculum that you guys are putting forward, and the software that we are giving them to help the kids and for them to get feedback on the kids' work is just amazing. So it was really important for me. It was great to be able to hear that. So I made it to, after I went to one, I went to all of them. So I was able to make it, which is very hard to do in one night. But I did it. So all of that was fantastic. The CDM, I think, which is really great, CDM is going to have a showcase house on October 11th, which is going to allow new parents to come in and see the campus. You don't get to get on campus very often, so they're going to have the ASB students show parents around, which I think is fantastic. And State of the School breakfast, put on by the Newport Beach Foundation, 7 o'clock on October 10th, and tickets are still on sale for $33.
That's AM, right?
Yeah, 7 o'clock AM, sorry. And tomorrow is the Newport Beach Liaison meeting, which I'm looking forward to attending.
I attended the Costa Mesa Youth Sports Council last week, and that's where Lance, we talked a lot about this, the fee structure, and they, obviously blessed it. And we just talked about, field use in general, but all of the ADs from our high schools got to speak. And one thing that stood out for me is that our Newport Harbor girls flag football team is ranked #1 in the nation. So, yeah.
Really?
And this, the AD there, he's like, I'm a real big football man, but I got to tell you, watching the girls play flag football is actually more entertaining than the boys play tackle. So that was a comment that resonated in my head, I don't know why, from that meeting. But another one was the Costa Mesa City Council took up a topic on the cannabis, on their cannabis policy in the city, and they directed the Planning Commission to relook at their guidelines for cannabis and basically what we had asked them to do with our resolution. However, so now it's going to the Planning Commission. So I would like to ask the staff to send our resolution to the Planning Commission, to email each Planning Commissioner with a resolution before their meeting. I think their next meeting would be the fourth week of September. So, now it goes to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission is going to hear and try to make changes and recommend changes to the city council, and will ultimately go to the city council for approval. But I think at this point, we need to still be diligent on the changes that we want to see made to the cannabis regulations here in Costa Mesa. So I will be at the Planning Commission meeting. Love to see everyone else to talk about it. But if we can get staff to send that resolution, that would be great.
And thankfully,
Thank you.
the planning commissioner was here, so he saw us
Yes.
live and voted on it. And they had a meeting on Monday, and they're not bringing it back until January.
Oh, okay.
So
Wow.
that was
Bigger-
they're going to hopefully be reworking it, so.
Perfect.
Well, fall sports are off to a great start. CDM beats Harbor in the Battle of the Bay in women's volleyball. And it was a great game because it was a nail biter. It was in 5. They won in 5. And our flag football team, I'm not sure if they're ranked #1. Obviously not, because Harbor took that spot, maybe not for long. They just beat Edison 28-7 yesterday. And East Bluff was having their STEAM night on September 28th, 4 to 6. Back Bay is having their back to school night tomorrow night at 5:30. And we, this whole week has been focused in my zone on bike safety, and I very much appreciate the collaboration of our PTAs. Well, within the Community Alliance, the CABS, which is Community Alliance for Bike Safety, kind of the push and just the focus of just spreading bike and education safety throughout our district within Costa Mesa and Newport. And Newport Beach has been doing a wonderful job going to our schools, and they are creating town halls at the school sites and also sponsoring town halls at this city level. So thank you, everyone who is putting that as a priority, because as we all know, we are all being affected by e-bike riders, and we cringe every time we see a student or an adult without a helmet or just speeding through an intersection, et cetera. So thank you all for working towards the same goal. And one more thing, I'd like to thank Samantha Balthazar and Rosie for coordinating the dinner tonight for our student board members and their families. Thank you. I know it takes a lot of work on top of everything else that you do, so it was delicious and very inviting. Thank you.
Thank you. And following up on the bike safety portion, one of the things that is really exciting in Costa Mesa is, particularly in the Estancia zone, the streets have all been re-slurried, and there is a bike lane that goes all along Placentia now. I believe it is I think it's from Adams all the way to about at least 16th Street, where we hit Newport Beach. But the full length of Placentia and Wilson and several of the main arteries there. So our students, thankfully, are riding a lot more bikes. but now they will be a bit safer. So that is really good news. And we have the upcoming Estancia Theater groundbreaking on September 22nd. Hooray, hooray, hooray. And so that will be at 10:30 a.m., but it's a long time coming, and we're very excited about that. And I was able to do a facilities walkthrough at Wilson Elementary with Mr. Trader and Ms. Shields, which was very illuminating. And so I just am thankful to have two staff members come to the site and look at all of the things with the principal. I think there's good things ahead. And lastly, we have high school voter registration week is next week, September 18th. So if we have student board members, I think it would be wonderful if they could help us in spreading the word, but just getting the word out about how early you can register, and we need everyone in our country to do their civic duty. That is all. Okay, we will adjourn the meeting at 9:52.